What is going on, diehards? Welcome back to the Die Hard MMA podcast. Happy Monday, everybody. I hope you started off your week well. I hope you have way too much caffeine in your system and you are ready to talk some fights, because I know I am, and that's about where I'm sitting right about now. We are rocking the baby blues. We got the money chain and the bucket hat on. We are all set, coming off a nice, big, not big, solid, respectable win at UFC 291. 4.69 units, I believe. So just shy of hitting the 5-unit mark. Unfortunately, our boy JSP, I talked about him being in the doghouse last week. He let us down again. Son of a bitch. I can't believe I fell for it twice. I even talked about not wanting to bet against David Onama on the show last week. And then what do? I talk myself into it over the course of the week. It's your classic Clint mistake when it comes to the bets. So I was very frustrated because it was one of my larger wagers on the week. And if the other ones had not gone my way, could have been a bad week, even though all the reads were right there. Thankfully, the other fights went our way. We got a little lucky on Mahashat. We got a little lucky on Don'Tale Mays. My God, if I had lost another Don'Tale Mays bet, I might have just canceled the show. I might not have been here to talk to you guys this week if I had lost more of my hard-earned money on Don'Tale freaking Mays. But thankfully, we get both of those going our direction. Little sweaty, but it's okay. We're good. UFC 301, baby. We got Rio. We've got the return of Jose Aldo. My boy Steve Erceg getting a title shot. The real life Rocky himself. I am so pumped up for this card. It's not what I'm foaming at the mouth to spend $80 on for a pay-per-view, but it's a good card. It should be fun. It's going to be tricky to bet, though. What is up, chat? Hope you guys are, oh yeah, they're popping off already. We got my guy Dream hanging out in here. Wheezy telling everybody in here to get off my lawn. Mushroom in the house. Dixon Cider. We got Rasul already going to war here. Ethan Hershey getting a little drunk already. Ishan, love to hear you. Love to hear that. We got Pedro in the house. Air Dog, and I am sorry, I have no idea how to say your name. You got to fix a couple of those letters before I can pronounce that on stream. Hope everybody is kicking some serious ass. And just to tell you to get off his lawn in person, our guest this week is none other than Uncle Easy. What's going on, buddy?
Not too much, man. Looking forward to breaking down this UFC 301 card with you. I did a little post on Twitter earlier about the Parlay Boys. Now, I think we talked about it last time when I was on the show, Clint, about how these guys, they're ruining our pool. They're pissing in the pool. They're playing really bad music. They're splashing around. And then Javid Basharat gets to minus 700 against Ayman Zahabi. You know, and they're doing it to us again. We got these lines. They're juiced to the tits, Clint. So I told the Parlay Boys, you know, your dogs are shitting on our finely manicured lawns. Stay off our lawn. We don't want to pay minus 600 for Michel Pereira, a guy who might gas out on the pre-fight dance. You know, we gotta have a little bit of restraint. Just a little bit of restraint, Parlay Boys. Stay off my goddamn lawn.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Wheezy, how was your weekend last week? UFC Vegas 91. How'd you do?
I did okay, I guess. It was a plus 0.9 unit performance for me this week. I, like you, was on JSP. I bet the decision prop at plus 265. It was a good number. It was a close fight, you know, but Onama won. He definitely did more damage in the first round and the third round. I had I'm salty, Clint. I had Ryan Spann in a parlay. I did it again. And look, and I'm this is my story and I'm sticking to it. Bogdan Guskov's still a bum. You know, I saw his BJJ coach putting a brown belt around his waist. I'm surprised he didn't tap to that. That guy's ground game is absolute hot garbage, and so is Ryan Spann's fight IQ. How do you take a guy down and drown him in the first and almost submit him and almost ground and pound him out, and then shoot 0 takedowns in the second round and have exact repeat of what happened to Zach Pauga in the last fight against this guy? I'm
he's a
so
mental
salty,
midget,
dude.
Wheezy. Because he's a mental midget. I'm sorry.
You're right.
Tried to warn everybody, man. Spann is a head case. I like the guy. I root for his success. And, early on in his career, we cashed a couple tickets with Ryan Spann, man. I called a couple sub props that were pretty filthy with their plus numbers early on, but I figured it out quick, man. If you play Smash Mouth with Spann, he will fold. He does not like it when people push back. He's a bully. And that's, I'll be honest with you, man. I bet Guskov, and I kind of thought he needed to avoid the ground. So when he got grounded for 4 straight minutes, I assumed it was over, you know? And then much like Denise, as soon as round 2 started, I was like, we got this. Like, as soon as we got to the bell in round 2, I'm like, that's it. We win.
Yeah. I had Denise as the ass shaving of the week. That came through. I had Dante Mays as the Bootsy Collins Memorial Dogs Are Barking pick of the week. That came through.
Very nice.
Up 0.9 units tracked. I had Petrovic in rounds 2 and 3 as a prop, but I also had Petrovic rounds 2-3 KO as a prop at like better than plus 400 for a half unit. And when she came so close to finishing her with that ground and pound at the end of the second, then finished with the sub in the third. So that was like a 2.5 unit swing if she would have got that ground and pound KO for me instead. And then, me being a dumbass and betting on Ryan Spann and laying juice on him, that cost me money. But I had Victor Henry. I was gonna bet him inside the distance. Just bet fight doesn't go instead. That cashed. Yeah, it was a good week. Nice. Hit a Prize Picks play too. But a couple week winning streak in a row here, but it's got to be a lot more than that, Clint. A lot more than that. I'm not done. I'm not ready to stop winning yet. We got to keep stacking these winning events like flapjacks here going forward, and it starts with this week in Brazil, Rio de Janeiro. Let's go.
Yes, sir. And we have already got 200 live viewers. It's pay-per-view week. You got to love the numbers on pay-per-view week. Everybody hit the like button. If you're on social media, do me a favor and share the show, please. This is the Home of Fight. Subscribe if you haven't already. The other content that's coming here on Home of Fight, absolutely phenomenal. You guys should see the podcast with my guy, Matty Betts, Money Moicano, Gilbert Burns. They're trying to get MMA Guru on the show. It's been pretty freaking hilarious. This is going to be a fun show, Weezy. I am hyped up for this fight card, and let's just get straight on into it, folks. How about it? First fight of the night, we got Alessandro Costa, and he is taking on Kevin Borjas in a fight that, man, I am like super pumped up for this after doing the tape, Wheezy. I kind of forgot about poor Kevin. I feel bad, Kevin. I apologize. If his mom wants to come take it out on me, I completely understand. But I completely forgot who this man was and had to go back and run the tape. When I did, I was very pleasantly surprised. Borjas, 26 years old. He's 0-1 in the UFC, but that debut was Josh Van, who, that guy took off like a rocket. Everybody and their mom knows who Josh Van is. He's one of the best prospects in the entire game right now. We are beyond pumped about Josh Van, and this guy lost a fight to him. So freaking what? He almost knocked him out in the first round, Weezy. You go back and run that tape. We haven't seen Josh Van wobble anything like he did when he fought Kevin Borjas. This dude almost ended the hype train before it ever even got started. Now he's coming in here with a 1-inch height and 1-inch reach advantage over Alessandro Costa. Costa, I remember very clearly. 1-2 in the UFC, very unfortunately, but kind of the same story, Weezy. This guy's 2 losses, Albazi and Erceg. Like Amir Albazi, the guy who is just the next big thing, and Erceg, who's literally headlining this card. Those are the 2 guys that beat Alessandro Costa. So you can't really hold those losses very much against him. He's very competitive. He's a little Brazilian monster, fast, explosive. He's got a huge back, Wheezy. Like when he throws those hooks, you can see he looks like Bane from Batman. Where he's got like the hoses in his mouth and hits the button, and then all of a sudden That's what this guy looks like, except he's about this tall. Anyway, I love this fight. It's going to be an absolute banger, man, to start the night. And I would love to bet violence because you guys know I always think the UFC knows what they're doing. They want unders in the first fight of the night to make sure everyone gets excited and gets pumped up. But both these guys are so fucking tough. Both these guys are so like they refuse to quit. They both got that dog in them. I don't know if anybody's going down in this spot, Wheezy. We've got Borjas, who didn't go down after getting 156 significant strikes landed on him by Joshua Van. And then you've got Alessandro Costa that, yeah, he went down in the third round against Albazi, but that was after that was getting dragged all around the cage. He was completely exhausted and worn out, and he got hit with an uppercut from hell to finally put him down. He went the full 15 minutes with Steve Erceg, who's a guy that I actually think has, underrated hands, a little bit underrated power. So his durability, even though he's got 2 knockout losses, is really not something that I'm questioning at this stage of his run. So I'm kind of thinking maybe buck the trend and go over one of those fights where your butt puckers a little bit, but it still manages to go the full 15. That's kind of how I see this fight playing out. I think it's going to be close. I got to go with Alessandro Costa personally. I think he's probably going to land the bigger shots. And we saw that Borjas got, when you get inside that range, the way Josh Van did, he can be had at that range. And I think that's where Alessandro Costa lives. Also, the leg kicks kind of chopping the tree down. I think Costa can have some success with that. Not to mention, his teammate, he's training right there with my guy who's been doing nothing but light the MMA scene on freaking fire. And of course, for some reason, I'm completely blanking. Diego Lopez. That's my guy. He's a training partner of Diego Lopez. So yeah, I'm going to pick Alessandro Costa to get it right here for Brazil in the first fight of the night.
Yeah, I'm with you there, Clint. I'm picking Costa as well. I've got a small bet on this fight for Alessandro Costa to win this fight by submission. We haven't seen that side of him really yet at the UFC level, but he's fought 3 primary grapplers here with Jimmy Flick, which is the guy that he beat, and then he loses to Albazi, who's an elite wrestler, great grappler, and the same thing with his most recent loss to a very good grappler. So Costa is somebody that I think that we might see that side of him a little bit more this time around against a guy in Borjas who we saw Victor Diaz attempt like 13 takedowns against him. And he got 5 of them, got over 7 minutes of control time, but he didn't really do anything with it. He wasn't really close on any submissions. And Borjas showed a good get-up game and the ability to not be satisfied with being on the ground. But Borjas has got a lot of guts, a lot of durability, a ton of heart. Very clearly, we saw that in the Van fight because Van was just marching him down like he was Michael Myers, with a big knife, dude. He was just walking forward consistently, just throwing volume from the first round on, from the end of the first round on. And so, I think that getting this guy on his back foot is going to be helpful. And if Costa wants to kind of welcome him in, throw some big hooks, try to land those big shots, mix in the wrestling, I think we could see him get a submission here. Borjas outside of the UFC, almost all the fights were at Inca FC, which is a local Peruvian promotion. The one time he fought in Combate, which is probably the top promotion in all of South America and Central America, he got submitted in the first round. Now, he almost knocked that dude out, but then Renzo caught him as well, dropped him, got on top of him, and then he finished him shortly thereafter with a submission. So I do believe that the submission is live for Costa. And because because Borjas is so durable, Clint, why not figure that the best way to maybe finish this guy, even if you land a big shot, maybe it's club and sub, maybe the best way to finish a guy like Borjas is just to make him submit, because he's not going to give up on himself, even if you're landing big shots on the feet. So Alessandro Costa by submission at plus 550. That's something I played for a quarter unit. And I think Costa can finish this fight inside the distance. And he's plus 190 inside the distance. That's a 34% implied probability. But you're getting less than half of that cost for the submission at plus 550. And I've got this new little tool that breaks down win condition as a function of the fighter's win probability. Alessandro Costa at -135 is a 57.45% win probability. And then if you put together for KO, submission, and decision, the three possible outcomes, you can add up those three numbers to that implied probability of 57.45%. 36.56% of that 57.45% is submission win for Alessandro Costa. So the data loves it. And I think the stylistic read is solid here because Borjas is a very durable guy. So I'm picking Costa by submission here.
Okay, Wheezy, I love it. I absolutely love that. One of my favorite ways to play submission props in the world is tough guys. Because even if you're on top of them and you're just hammering away, like if the ref doesn't step in and save them, which in Brazil most of the time they don't, the only way to actually get them out of there is to grab the neck. And you can't tough your way. Shout out Liam Picks Fights. Yeah. You can't tough your way through being unconscious. You cannot stop a blood choke just by being a badass. So like, I think that's a great way to play it if you think somebody's going to survive some big, powerful shots. That's why we looked at the sub for Kayla Harrison against Holly Holm, because Holly was never going to be the one to get KO'd. She's too durable. She's too tough, even older, but she'll give that neck up. I love it. I love the call here. We're in agreement. We're picking the same side. I like Costa. Some money has come in on Borjas, guys. It looks like Costa's down to about -135-ish. Shout out my guy, UFC Bro Picks. I know he's on Borjas, and he got a much better number than what's out there right now, the +115 or so that's available. But that is... I would like the buy low here. You know, if money's coming in on Borjas, we'll wait and see how low this gets. Maybe we play Costa a little bit closer to fight time, especially if we can get somewhere down around even money or something like that.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
I like it. All right, everybody. Next fight up, we've got Ismael Bonfim taking on Vince from hell, Michel. And okay, Weezy, I told this story last week, and I have to tell it again. It's funny. I told this story last week having no idea that a Vince Michel fight was right around the corner. I forgot that he was booked for this fight here against Ismael Bonfim. So my father-in-law has a best friend, Mark. Love him to death. He's absolutely hilarious. We all do fireball shots together. We play pool and darts, and we go to the casino and blow way much more money than we should trying to play stupid table games out at the casino. But love Mark to death. He's been telling me forever, Wheezy, that he knows a UFC fighter. Oh, I know a guy. It's like, yeah, okay, Mark. You know, I know a guy. No, he doesn't just fight though. Okay, Mark. Yeah, he fights in the UFC, Clint. I'm like, oh, okay, sure you do. You know some guy. Yeah, okay. He's talking to me, and this has been years that this is going on. Years. And all of a sudden, I said that 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, we're doing the same song and dance again. Clint, this UFC fighter guy that I went to like a barbecue and I got to talk to him, and yeah, okay, Mark, sure. And he's talking about it. Bro, he's like best friends with Vince Michel's cousin or some shit. Like, he legitimately has been 1000% correct every time he's tried to talk to me about this guy. Had no idea who Vince Michel was, so he couldn't give me enough information to believe him. He's been talking about Vince Michel for years. Legitimately knows him, hung out with him at a barbecue. Absolutely freaking hilarious. Floored me when I put the pieces together, and I was just standing there with my jaw slack like an idiot because I was like, I did not believe him, not even for 1 second. So it turns out he's legit. I'd like to apologize, Mark. I'm sorry I didn't believe you. But at any rate, it is Vince Michel fight week. And Ismael Bonfim, I'd say maybe the B-side Bonfim. Like, it's hard to tell. They're both young. It's a little early, but I kind of feel like he's the B-side of the Bonfim bros. He's only 28 years old, and he's fresh off of getting absolutely ragdolled by my guy Benoit Saint-Denis. He's had a weird run so far in the UFC, Wheezy. 1-1 over Terrence McKinney and Benoit Saint-Denis. You couldn't get more like opposite than those two. I mean, one is incredibly durable, tough, huge. The other one is kind of lanky, tall, skinny, and fragile as all get out. If he doesn't get you early, he's going away quick. So I feel like I've had a pretty good read on this Bonfim. Bet him on the Contender Series, actually did the Bonfim parlay. And then we did Inside the Distance against Terrence McKinney, knowing that he would fold if he survived early. And then I actually left my balls in my wife's purse, and I didn't bet something. I should have. I don't know why I didn't.
Me too.
But I called it.
Furious.
You know what I mean? It was one of those.
Yeah.
It was one of those ones where I was like, guys, pump the brakes. Like, this is the spot where be careful. And then I didn't pull the trigger on my own freaking guy. Feels awful because he was like a plus 250 underdog or something like that. I will never forgive myself for leaving that money on the table. But I like his overall skill set, right? He's fast. He's got good hands, good boxing. BJJ, he's a decent wrestler. That's kind of, I guess, maybe the weakness there in his game, but good counter ability, very athletic and quick. Vince Pichel, maybe the complete opposite from that. He's 41 years old. He's getting up there, and he is really a throwback, Wheezy. I mean, he's a BJJ black belt, sure, but this is a guy who relies on his toughness. This is a guy who at the barbecue will trade punches with you until one guy falls over and he's going to win that. Like if he fought at UFC 5, he would do great. That's what I think of Vince Pichel. And you go back and you watch his recent run, man. The decision win over Jim Miller was a solid spot. The Austin Hubbard decision, he really opened some eyes there, kind of exposed Hubbard in that spot. And even against Mark Madsen, I kind of remembered that fight going a little bit differently. I kind of remembered Mark Madsen just ragdolling this guy. And Vince Pichel does not have great takedown defense, but he's hard to hold down. He's a whole lot of man, and he does a good job of scrambling. He never quits on himself. He does work his way back up to the feet, and he's only been finished twice in his entire career. Once by sub, once by knockout. And those came a long time ago, man. They came a real long time ago. Now, this is a much younger fighter that he's facing. He's going to be at a big speed deficit. But once again, I kind of hate this number. I kind of feel like Vince Pichel is a bit live when we're talking minus 500 and plus 380, the comeback on Vince Pichel. We've seen Ismael Bonfim really struggle with these big physical guys that can kind of pin him up against the cage, that can slow him down, that just kind of refuse to fuck off and go away. You look at his LFA tape. There was this guy named Augusto Wheezy who was a full head shorter than Ismael Bonfim, and he ended up winning that fight. But he got controlled against the fence for a lot of it by a guy that was much smaller than he was. I think Vince Pichel is not going to go away so easily here in this spot. I kind of feel like I have to pick. Again, I'm going to take the coward's way out the same way I did against Benoit Saint-Denis. I'll pick Bonfim to win this fight, but I'm going nowhere near minus 500, Wheezy. What do you think of this fight?
Yeah, we're on the same page again, because minus 500, minus 550 for this dude, Bonfim, who's coming off a loss and then was supposed to fight Vince Pichel back in November, Clint. Showed up 3.5 pounds heavy and the fight was canceled. So completely unprofessional behavior, that's a big red flag. Dude, they set you up with a fight in your home country against a 41-year-old man and you can't make weight? That's horrible.
Didn't he have like an attitude about it too?
I don't know if he did or not, dude. I didn't hear anything about that, but I mean, like, whatever somebody says, that's why interviews can be a bit weird, because you gotta kind of like ask yourself, is this fighter being honest with us? Oh, it's the best camp of my life. The weight cut's going great, is it?
You sure?
If it was going like absolute trash, would you be sharing that with us right now? So this is a weird one, but here's the way I'm kind of like not getting to the Pichel money line, but here's the way I'm kind of like de facto betting that Pichel can make this a little bit closer than what the line intends. And I'm going with fight goes to decision here, Clint.
I like that.
7 of 9 fights for Vince Pichel since the year 2013 have went to decision in the UFC. The one that didn't was against Gregor Gillespie. He got subbed by just a phenomenal grappler and wrestler, something that, Ismael Bonfim is not. Ismael Bonfim has 4 professional losses. They're all by submission. So, Ismael Bonfim is not a guy you got to worry about taking you down and drowning you a la Gregor Gillespie. Before that, he was knocked out by suplexes against Rustam Habilov in the year of our Lord 2012. Great year, right? Remember what you were doing in 2012? So that was the last time he got knocked out. So one thing about Pichel is this dude's never been knocked down or knocked out via strikes in the UFC over a long time. We're talking about almost a 12-year stretch for Vince Pichel in the UFC. So, and Bonfim, both of his fights have finished inside the distance. So I feel like this fight doesn't go is getting a little bit juiced up. But one of them is against Terrence McKinney. A Terrence McKinney fight is never going to go to decision. The other one was him just getting drowned by a much superior fighter in Benoit Saint Denis. That could happen to anybody. We don't learn a whole lot from that. But when you go and you watch Vince fight, he's elusive. He likes to counter. And what does Bonfim like to do? He's elusive and he likes to counter as well. They're both really good boxers, but obviously Bonfim, better minute winner and better moment winner at distance striking range here. But like I said, this guy Michel's been around forever. He's never even been knocked down, much less hurt to the point on the feet where he's getting close to getting knocked out. So if both guys are kind of counter heavy, we could see a low volume striking match. We could also see Vince deciding, hey, I'm going to make this kid wrestle. Screw that, man. If he's got 4 losses and they're all by submission, why should I go in there and box with a guy that's a former professional boxer in Ismael Bonfim? So I think that Vince is going to go in there, muddy up the waters here, dirty this up. I think he's going to wrestle. And I think that he's going to be elusive and low output on the feet looking to counter. And I think that this one's going to go to decision. So plus 120 is a trifecta bet on my prop template where I take 3 metric comparisons, the implied probability of the line, the combined goes to decision rates of both fighters, and the divisional benchmark. And we compare all 3 of those to the price of the line. And all 3 of them are saying that this line is underpriced by quite a bit. So plus 120, fight goes. That's how I'm playing this one.
I like that, Wheezy. I like that call a lot because then you're counting on Vince's durability. If he gets the win, hey, great. If he doesn't get the win, he can still lose that. And you don't get caught, not getting anything for the effort there. I think we can rely on the durability of Vince Pichel. I'd be looking at an over here too. That sounds good to me. Because frankly, he's no slouch in the grappling. I don't know that he's going to get submitted, and he's tough as nails. He's been super durable his whole career. If we're grappling, I don't think he's getting knocked out. And if we're grappling, I think he might have some success in that grappling ballpark as well. When they're on the feet, lots of paint drying, like you mentioned. They both could be looking to set up counters. That's the one thing I worry about is Vince looking old overnight and then getting caught with like a big bomb or something like that. Totally on the table at 41 years old, obviously. But I'm with you there. I like a bit of an over there. That sounds like a good chance. Good times. I like it. Plus money as well. All right. Next up, we have got Diony Barbosa taking on Ernesta Carol Clark. I know. How do you do that, Wheezy? How do you say that name?
It's Karasketa. So like the C is like an S. So Karasketa.
Okay. Karasketa.
Lithuania, stand up.
There you go. Love it. I'm glad you're here to save me on that one because that was maybe one of my worst efforts of all time to pronounce a name. At any rate, Barbosa 6-2. Man, this is Dana White's Contender Series 2.0. Both these women are making their debut off the Contender Series, and I almost hate when they do that. I don't know. Like, yeah, just because it makes it so much easier to fade one of them when they're facing a UFC level talent, when they're fighting each other. It's like, I don't fucking know. This is still regional bullshit, basically. So Barbosa, BJJ black belt. She looks like she's pretty physically strong, man. She's one of these girls that you look at what she's done, and then like 6 months later into their UFC career, all of a sudden they've got a few extra muscles and a few extra veins showing, and all of a sudden they're a complete badass. I feel like that's kind of the direction we're headed here with Barbosa, especially with her fighting in Brazil, her hometown, in this spot. Good, solid submission game. Won her Dana White's Contender Series fight via armbar. I don't like how confident she is going to her back. I love jiu-jitsu players. I'm a jiu-jitsu player. You got to know how to be a fighter off your back, and that's wonderful. But the way that she just kind of gives up and flops to her back, in MMA, you're losing time, man, if you're on your back. However, might be okay in this spot. Karasketa 5-0-1. She's kind of a marauder, man. Her Dana White's Contender Series was a little bit of an outlier. I think Dana White got to her a little bit with that, his rousing speech about going out there and being Joe Pyfer before, that kind of thing. She doesn't tend to fight like that all the time. She's usually a little bit more patient. She's usually a little bit more letting her opponents kind of, come to her, feel it out, work the outside. But she went for it on her Dana White's Contender Series fight. And that was a hell of a slugfest in that spot. It was very, very entertaining. She is tall, she is long, and I've talked about it with some of these women's MMA fighters. They're too lanky for their own damn good. Like, it's a weapon, but when you've got that speed disadvantage, it turns into a problem for you. But she's got a nasty, tight little hook that she throws, man. She's got a very effective left hand. She's always throwing in combination. She circles well. She's training at Masters MMA, which is a great place to be. Good volume, not a ton of power, though. That's kind of the one thing that worries me a little bit here for her is with that kind of a style, you can be had by some of the stronger, more physical women. She's going to have a 5-inch reach advantage here in this spot. And man, I really wanted to make an argument for Kereskeita in this spot. She's a plus 180 dog. Diana Barbosa is now minus 215. She was about minus 170 just a day or so ago when I was taping this fight. So some money is definitely coming in here on the Barbosa side. And I think that's probably for good purpose, man. I think she's going to get the takedowns. And whenever anybody who's done any jiu-jitsu knows, if you guys have ever been on the mat before, these long string beanie lanky sons of bitches, especially the ones that are new and don't know how to grapple very well, they're just so easy to tie into a pretzel, Wheezy. Like, you can use that length to your advantage on the mat, but it takes time. You got to learn how to do it. If it's not your first skill, and she's obviously a striker, not a jiu-jitsu player, you just get bent in half. Like, you're transitioning. You think you know what you're doing, and all of a sudden, like your arms hyperextended. You have no idea what happened. That's what happens. Trust me, I've got these long ass arms. It happened to me, and it hurt a lot. My elbow still clicks from a guy that armbarred me one time. So I fully expect Barbosa to find her way to a submission in this spot. Whether she just like takes down this girl, body lock her, maul her, do whatever it takes to get it to the ground, butt scoot, lay on her back and invite her to come down. This is Brazil. The ref might make the girl go down instead of like standing them up. He might be like, no, you go down into her guard. But one way or another, I think this fight is hitting the ground, and I think Barbosa will find her way to a sub from there, man. What about you?
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I actually bet Barbosa's money line small for 1 unit to try to win a little more than a half unit. What I saw here was that Kereskeita is a pretty good striker. She's long. She's got phenomenal conditioning. So with that phenomenal conditioning, she can push a pace and throw a ton of output. The numbers that she landed on Dana White's Contender Series were ridiculous. 184 significant strikes in 15 minutes that Ernesto Kereskeita landed against Carly Giudice. But here's the thing. She got hit 168 times. This girl might as well tattoo Everlast on her forehead because she's a punching bag. She comes forward and she gets hit. And Donnie Barbosa's got solid striking. She's going to be shorter and she's going to be not as long here, but I think she's got a little bit more power than Ernesto does on the feet. And then Ernesto's going to have to worry about the grappling. Now, Ernesto really hasn't fought anybody yet. I mean, there was the girl, Giudice, that she fought on Dana White's Contender Series, is basically a softball player who turned MMA, and that was a very short notice fight for Giudice. So, that's always not ideal for Ernesto either, but with the change of opponent. But she was just a little bit better striking than Carly. And I think that probably Barbosa has actually got better striking than Carly does. But the grappling is much different. And Kereskeita has fought nothing but bums on the regional scene prior to getting here. But the one girl that she fought that had a pulse, she fought her twice. French girl named Letitia Blow. And guess what Blow is? She's a judo player. And if you watch this girl's striking, it's some of the worst that I've ever seen. Letitia Blow. I mean, like, it was really pretty funny to watch because it's clear that she has a judo background and never, ever, ever boxed, right? She was even landing on Kereskeita, but Kereskeita's volume wasn't the same when she was fighting Letitia Blow because she had to worry about the takedowns. And Letitia Blow kept getting the judo takedowns, the inside trips. She would kind of sweep the feet to kind of, you kind of like start with a foot sweep a lot of times in judo to get somebody off balance. And then when they're off balance, you can bring your hips in and bring them over a leg or do whatever it is, whether it's an inside trip, an outside reap, a throw. There's a number of different things that you can do over there in the clinch. Blow was doing all of it to Ernesto. And this Letitia Blow is not the judo player that Barbosa is. Barbosa is a Brazilian Olympic judo player, Olympic black belt here, black belt in BJJ as well. So I think that Diani is so much better on the ground than Ernesta is. If Ernesta is better on the feet, it doesn't come close to how much better Diani is on the ground. In addition to that, Diani's more experienced. She's fought the better brand of competition. She's a lifelong fighter, been training judo since she was like probably 10 years old, while Karakacha was a swimmer growing up. So I like Karakacha's striking. I like her conditioning. I like her durability. I think that she's got a skill set that's going to win some fights up here in this division, here in the flyweight division for the UFC. I really do. And she's still very young and getting better. But this is going to be Diani Barbosa. Flying from Lithuania to Rio to make your UFC debut in front of a very hostile crowd against a hometown fighter. It's just too much to ask. I love Barbosa in this spot.
I like it, Weezy. Glad to hear you say that, man. I'm a little disappointed I didn't go ahead and lay the minus 170. It's one of those ones where I kind of had to sleep on it, right? I've got one bet coming into this preview that you and I are doing. I've got one bet locked in, ready to go so far on this card. And I wanted to just kind of talk it out. I wanted to think it through and go over some stuff with you. And as soon as I really started thinking about this fight, I was like, damn, man, I should have laid the minus 170. Like that was a good price tag, and I really should have got in on that. So I'm going to have to get creative here. We talked about it. Get off my lawn, Parlay City this week. I'll probably have to look that direction to get the price where I want it to. And I've got a strategy this week, Weezy. I've got a strategy that we'll see what you think when we get there. But I've got something that might be a little new, a little different, could get me in a lot of trouble. But hey, you know that's how I like to roll. So I'm going to tease that. We'll save it for when it comes up here. Real quick, I want to shout out my boy in the chat, Razor Sharp Picks, my guy, one of the best damn gamblers I've ever seen in my life. You guys really should be following Razor. If you are not, he doesn't pay me for these ads that I do for him, but I always have to let you guys know when he's in the chat. Seriously, baseball, basketball, everything under the sun, horse racing. This man puts money in my pocket. And the reason I shout him out is because he is so damn good at it, and he will put money in your pocket as well. So seriously, just met the guy through Pub Sports Radio, turned into buds, started tailing him for no fucking reason other than I'm a degenerate and needed some extra action, and then went, oh shit, he actually makes money doing this, and try to pass the word out there as much as I possibly can, because he's actually really good. Kyle Marley in the house. What's up, Marley? Good to see you, my guy. Another name I got to get back on this damn show sooner than later. Good to see you, my guy. Thanks for hanging out. All right, we're just a couple fights in, and we've got a lot more to get to tonight. Next up, you have got Mauricio Ruffy taking on Jamie Malarkey. And I've said it time and time again, Wheezy, Jamie Malarkey is Alexander Volkanovski light. You know, he's the guy when your mom says, we've got that at home. That's Jamie Malarkey, right? He's just a little bit worse at everything than Alexander Volkanovski is, but it's the same idea. And I'm not saying that as an insult. He's very good. He's got a very well-rounded skill set. He knows how to seal off rounds with takedowns, things like that. But the big thing that's been the story with Jamie Malarkey lately is that failing durability, Wheezy. That's always been his thing, is to be able to just go blow for blow with everybody. Just get in there, shake it up. I will last longer than you do, and then I'll put an emphasis on one of these rounds that'll get me the nod, and if I don't finish you, I'll get the decision that way. It's kind of been not really working out so hot. He's 3-3 in his last 6, and all 3 of those losses, man, are by knockout. His chin is one of the weirdest things I've ever seen in my life, because he looks like the most durable, made out of iron type of fighter you've ever seen. And then bink, and he's done. Like, he'll absorb 25 shots in a row, smile at you, goad you on. Let's keep throwing. And then that last one puts him down. It's just like the chin just goes very suddenly. So it's very frustrating and hard to lay chalk on Jamie Malarkey. If you're considering it, though, thankfully, he is not chalk in this spot. And usually as an underdog, that's where I like Jamie Malarkey, because I know he's going to come out there and fight for my dollar. He is taking on a Dana White's Contender Series debutante here, 30-year-old Mauricio Ruffy, who's 9-1. He's got a 100% finish rate, and his only loss is a finish as well. He got knocked out in round 2. He's a member of the Fighting Nerds, and it was really funny, man, because I'm watching some of this guy's tape, and I was like, geez, like, I don't know why, but this guy really reminds me of Conor McGregor. Like, the build,
me too.
the physique, and the way he moves. It's just like, Buddy really grew up in the McGregor era. This guy watched Conor McGregor tape and went, I'm legit going to copy that homework. And then I watched his Dana White's Contender Series fight, and none other than Laura Sanko goes, he's got a little shades of McGregor on it. I was like, oh shit, like Laura sees it too. It's not just me. Shout out Laura Sanko. Come on the podcast sometime. Maybe, please. That'd be cool. Light on his feet. Wide stance, very bouncy, plays with those hands low, kind of fades out of his way, rolls with punches, that kind of thing. Very patient, Wheezy. Even though he's got a lot of finishes on his record, it's opportunistic. You know what I mean? He's not rushing the knockout. He lets it come to him. And that's how he tends to get those finishes, is because he's not trying to make it happen. He just waits for that opportunity to do so. Ruffy's going to have a 1-inch reach advantage here in this spot. And I circled this spot, Wheezy. As soon as I looked at it, I went, you know what? I cannot wait to fade this most recent crop of Dana White's Contender Series fighters. It's a printing strategy. We're going to make so much money just going on the opposite sides of these guys, because they are not as good as they're being packaged as. And I love Jamie Malarkey, and I wanted to bet Jamie Malarkey. Wheezy, this guy's going to knock Jamie the fuck out. Like, I hate it. I hate it so much because I want to fade the Dana White's Contender Series debutante at plus money, but I can't. Like, if Jamie goes out there and wrestles this guy for 15 minutes, maybe he wins a decision that way. But from what we've seen with Malarkey's striking, this guy is going to be out of range. Malarkey's not going to be able to find him. The athleticism and speed difference, it's going to be a problem. And then when Jamie does finally get frustrated and comes in and tries to put a stamp on something, this guy's going to bank him right on the chin. And the accuracy he's got with his hands, the speed, the power, I just think it's going to be too much. I can't trust Jamie Malarkey in this spot. And on top of that, he got knocked out by Nasrat Haqparast, man, 4 months ago, Wheezy. And guys, if you haven't ran that fight back, go watch it again. Nasrat Haqparast is not known as a power puncher. I actually think I called this one, Wheezy. I need to go back and run my own show back to confirm. But I think I actually called Nasrat by knockout in that spot because of the speed. Not because of the power, because of the speed. But what happens is he essentially knocks Jamie Malarkey out cold. Jamie, tough son of a gun that he is, kind of stumbles and zombies his way back up to his feet. The entire time he's coming up, he's getting uppercuts from hell from Nasrat Haqparast. And Wheezy, he's essentially unconscious while trying to stand up. Like, his body's completely on autopilot. He finally gets back up to his feet, and Nasrat bites down on a hook. And that's it. He goes down again. And he essentially got knocked out twice in the same fight. He took 20 significant strikes while his brain was already turned off. Guys, that is a scary, scary, scary knockout to be coming back from. And it's only a 4-month turnaround. I'm not a doctor, not a neuroscientist. That's too quick. I always like for fighters to come off a bad, scary knockout 9 to 12 months, man. Like, take a year off, let your body recover, let your brain recover. And he's not doing that here. If you're getting knocked out by a guy like Nasrat, no, you shouldn't be, but you are, and you get knocked out badly like that, you need to take the appropriate amount of time off, and he is not doing that, Wheezy. So since this is such a quick turnaround, I'm going to kind of buck my own trend here. I'm tempted to lay the -170 with Ruffy, and I probably at some point will have a piece of that knockout with Ruffy, because I just don't think Malarkey's chin is going to hold up here.
Damn it. When are we going to disagree, dude?
It'll happen. It'll happen.
I mean, it would probably happen at some point, but like, so, I'm not a guy that's been high on Malarkey. As a matter of fact, he's gotten so much respect from the betting public and from the bookies in general that it's actually made me angry. Like, I've been shorting this guy every goddamn fight. I had Michael Johnson against him, and I was just infuriated by the decision there. But to be fair, I mean, it was a close, good back and forth fight. They both had their moments. I think it could have went either way. I thought, Johnson won, but they gave that one to Malarkey. Then the Francisco Prado fight, which was absolute trash. Prado took that fight on less than a week's notice, had to fly from Argentina to Australia, and then just sleptwalked through that fight for 3 rounds. It did nothing. Then I shorted him against Muhammad Naimov and cashed a +450 money line ticket. Loved that. Shorted him against John Makdessi, and while the Johnson fight was close, I thought Makdessi definitely beat Jamie Malarkey.
I was
And
close.
that's a 40-year-old midget in John Makdessi at 155 pounds, flying all the way to Australia and beating Jamie Malarkey in front of his home country's audience. A guy that's 13 years older than Malarkey at the time that they fought. So, of course, when he fought Hack Press, I'm like, this dude is going to lose, And now I see him fighting Mauricio Ruffy. So, I thought he lost to Johnson. I thought he lost to Makdessi. If you look at it that way, this dude has lost 5 of his last 6 fights, And the guy that he did beat was sleepwalking through that fight. So, I'm not high on Malarkey. That being said, he's a well-rounded guy. Solid conditioning, solid boxing, solid wrestling, solid toughness. But I think Ruffy's going to punt his head into the cheap seats here. Ruffy's really explosive. He's got phenomenal counters. He's patient. He's not going to go in there and set up opportunities for Malarkey to land the big shot. And I think Malarkey's going to try to wrestle, and I think Ruffy's going to throw him around like he's his big brother. He's going to be bigger than him. He's stronger than him. Even if you look at Ruffy's regional scene competition, the guy that he fought on the Contender Series is a stud. The guy he beat before that has 50 professional fights. He was 41-8, and he knocked that dude out in round number 2. He absolutely starched this Romanian dude the fight before that. And his only loss is to Manuel Sosa, who's 13-0. And who's got some really good wins on his resume. And if you go back and you watch the Ruffy-Sosa fight, Ruffy dropped Sosa twice. He's having moments in that fight, but this guy Sosa's just a zombie and eventually lands the big shot in the second round that knocks out Sosa. So I don't think Malarkey's going to be able to take him down. And I just think that the power differential and durability differential between these two guys is really in favor of Ruffy. Mm-hmm. Also, home crowd, Malarkey. This is a long flight from Australia to Brazil, and they're not going to care for him there. They're not going to be as welcoming as they were during the Makdessi fight, when he was fighting at home. So, yeah, man, I like Ruffy here. I think he knocks him out.
Man, with that name, he had better steal the hook chant for Ruffy. He could be Ruffy. He needs to run that one back, man. Bring it back around. I'm old. I'm showing my age here. I'm glad we agree on this one, Wheezy. I'm actually tempted on pulling the trigger on this minus 170 here because yet again, I'm going to buck my trend here, guys. I'm sorry. I know that's my angle, and sometimes it bites me when I go against my own angle, but I think this is the spot to do it. We've got Rope Lord asking, why does Clint look like he just dropped a silent fart? And that's probably because I did. I've got the door shut. The wife and daughter are, outside the room. And wait till we get virtual reality podcasting, guys. When you can sit like in a dome and look like we're in the room next to each other and then have like hoses up your nose so it smells like we're having the conversation together. You'll smell my bag of Doritos and then, of course, my silent farts when they go off. The mic, thankfully, doesn't pick them up, though. No.
Just hit that mute button, man. That's what the true pros do.
Man, that's, the technology at some point, Wheezy, will have to begin to ask ourselves, have we come too far? Have we taken this too far? We do not need to be doing that type of shit. All right, next up, we've got Joaquim Silva, Neto, BJJ himself, taking on Drakkar, Klose. And Wheezy, I've had a spotted history with Drakkar Klose. I've had a very back and forth, up and down history with Drakkar Klose. I don't know what it is. I really don't. He's an Arizona boy. He's been fighting out here. He's kind of marauding around the area, training at different gyms and stuff. And for some reason, he just rubbed me the wrong way. I didn't really kind of think that highly of him. I really underrated his skill set. I underrated the raw physicality that he brings to the table. It was something I never really gave him credit for. And then especially after the Beneil Dariush knockout, man, I've talked about it before. I wanted to mortgage my house to put on Jeremy Stephens. And then because he was coming back too quickly, we just talked about the knockout thing where you're coming around too fast. You haven't allowed your body the time to heal up the right way. Jeremy Stephens at that time still had some serious heat in his hands and then crippled this guy with a shove at the face-offs, and they had to cancel the fight because of it. I mean, for his family's sake, thank God, because he probably was not mentally cleared to come back. But I was about to cash a big bag on the knockout, Wheezy, and I do kind of, I do regret that didn't actually happen. For my own sake, I would have enjoyed that. But since then, he's taken the necessary time off, and he has stopped running around the country like a Ronin trying to find a place to fit. He found a home, man. He finally got dug in here in Arizona. He's at the Lab, which is one of the better gyms in the world, actually, believe it or not. I was going to say the area, but it's really one of the best in the world. He's been looking phenomenal. He's rattled off a 3-fight win streak. His cardio looks better. He is strong as shit. He hits really hard. Like, everything is there for Drakkar Klose. And I've come back around on him, Wheezy. I finally realized, you know what? I shortchanged this guy. I had a personal bias on him, and I really don't even know why. Like, I don't even know if he had like a post-fight speech where he sounded like an asshole, and I was just like, nope, don't like that guy. Like, I don't know what happened to make me be on the other side of him, but I've come back around. I like Drakkar Klose. I respect what he's done. I can see the skill that's there that I was missing beforehand. Took me too long to get here, Wheezy. Took me too long to get here, but I'm here. I'm on board. Now, Joaquim Silva, they call this guy Neto BJJ, and he's got a nasty squeeze on him, but he's only got 3 wins by submission, Wheezy. He likes to punch. This is a man who wants to cave the side of your head in. Even though he can easily squeeze your neck until your eyes pop out of your skull, he will prefer to just smash a knee into your forehead instead. That's the type of guy that we're dealing with here. I could not believe in his last fight that he did not finish Clay Guida. Clay Guida, tough as freaking nails, Wheezy, still as tough as they come, somehow made it through that fight. Almost got choked out a couple different times because, like we talked about before, if you're too tough for your own damn good, you take the neck. And finally, that's what happened with Neto BJJ. He went, I can't knock this sumbitch out. So he grabbed Clay Guida's neck, and he still couldn't do it. So that was a bit of a red flag there, but you roll it back one fight against Arman Tsarukyan, and this guy gave him hell. This guy had Arman Tsarukyan dancing around the cage on wobbly legs like Kevin Lee. He hurt him badly, Wheezy. A lot of people questioning Arman Tsarukyan as a title contender after that fight because he's supposed to roll through this nobody, and instead it took him until round 3 to finally get him out of there. So very, very dangerous fight here between 2 very game competitors. They're both a little bit older. Drakkar Klose coming off that highlight reel slam KO in his last fight, which was just glorious. I mean, like throwback to Rampage style, like picking a dude up and just physically slamming him to the floor. I don't think that Silva is going to be able to submit Klose, Wheezy. I really don't. Now, can he hurt him with the hands? Yeah, definitely can. I kind of feel like Drakkar Klose has a little bit of a cardio advantage here in this spot. So it's going to be another close fight, in my opinion. And if we're not wrestling, I don't know that Silva is going to gas out the way we've seen him slow down in the past. So another butthole puckery. This one probably should go under, but instead it goes over. I lean close, but I could make an argument for Silva very, very easily in this spot, man. I'm not going to disrespect Klose anymore. I'll pick him to win. He's a minus 160 favorite here at this point, but I think I'll take him by decision. What do you think here, Wheezy?
Yeah, these are guys that when they fight, it's just for some reason I have very little interest in what the gambling angles are. I like sometimes you just have fighters that they're the type of fighter where you're going to avoid their fight because you don't really feel like you got a really good handle on what it is that they do well. And I don't know what Joaquim Silva does well. I mean, like you look at the numbers, it's nothing. He's a guy whose nickname is BJJ.
He just likes to get in there.
Yeah, I know. I mean, like his nickname is Neto BJJ, but he averages 0.4 takedowns per 15 minutes, so he's not going to grapple. He gets less than 6% control time. And with Klose, you got a guy that, lands about as many strikes as he absorbs at distance. His defense and accuracy are all right. He's found a way to be 8-2 in the UFC, but he's also a guy that's kind of won a lot of fights in the margins. If you go back, to the early Drakkar Klose days, he's kind of holding somebody up against the cage and winning fights that would have been scored his way in 2017, but there wouldn't have been scored his way in 2024 when people are looking for damage only and really could give a shit if you get takedowns or cage control time. So I like Klose here. I think he probably wins this fight, but like these guys are well matched in a lot of ways. They're pretty much the same age. They're both right around 36. They're like the same height and the same reach, pretty much. Same amount of pro fights, same amount of UFC fights. you know, neither one of them is like a spectacular finisher at this level. You know, they've both been to decision a lot. I mean, Drakkar Klose, 6-1 in decisions. Joaquim Silva, 3-1 in decisions. You know, I think maybe Silva's the better moment winner wherever the fight goes. I think he's got more power on the feet. You could just take a look at him. You know, you could see that he's been taking his vitamins and saying his prayers. And Klose has looked really good lately. When he came back after that long layoff and beat 7 shades of shit out of Brandon Jenkins, I was like, whoa. Because up until that point, Klose wasn't finishing anybody.
No.
And then all of a sudden, he just absolutely murdered that dude. And then
he flipped that switch, man. Weezy, I don't know what happened. He flipped a switch. Like, all of a sudden, he's a guy you got to worry about.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, like, I'm picking Klose to win here. I think he should get the job done. But I still kind of feel like I just need, you know, to see him fight a couple more times with a little more frequency to figure out where he's at right now. And Silva, I mean, didn't Silva get knocked out by Rick Glenn? Did that happen?
That did happen.
That is the worst look. I mean, like, Rick Glenn has looked horrible since that fight. And Rick Glenn was on something like a 2-year layoff going into that fight or something.
That was kind of his last hurrah, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. I mean, because he got finished in his next couple of fights and just looked god awful. So, yeah, I think this is close, but I don't know what I'm going to do with this.
Yeah, I'm going to look at Drakkar Klose here in this spot as that number continues to kind of maybe come down a little bit. I think he's playable in this ballpark. Like I said, -160 is not the worst price I've ever seen. I don't mind it whatsoever. And Dixon Sider saying people hated him for the Jeremy Stevens pullout, but that's the thing. That's the thing. I hated him before that. Like, I was pissed off about not being able to cash a ticket on that one, man. But I hated him before that. I don't know why. I don't know what happened. So again, it's lost to time. I have no idea. But yeah, man, I'm glad we agree on this fight yet again, Weezy. I'm sure we'll find one coming up here that we disagree on. Guys, we've got over 550 live viewers. Not bad for a Monday. Do me a favor and hit the like button. Share, please, if you're on social media. And this is Home of Fight. I'm hanging out with Uncle Weezy. Make sure you give him a follow. One of the best stat guys in the freaking game, and also just hilarious. Make sure you guys want to know. You want to know Uncle Weezy on social media. Next up, we've got Gene Silva taking on William Gomis, and yet another fighter, Weezy, that I can't stand. Except this time I know why. Gene Silva. For those of you who can't recall, I had the same problem. I looked at this guy and I was like, I know that name. Why do I know that name? So yes, he is one of the fighting nerds, but Weezy, he tortured us. Gene Silva is the man who owns the worst walkout of all UFC history. He's the guy who took a good 7 minutes to get from the back to the cage facing Weston freaking Wilson, the slowest walk that has ever been taken place inside the UFC. You could have listened to Weird Al's Albuquerque, which is the longest song I personally know off the top of my head, twice by the time he actually got to the cage. It was obnoxious. And then once he got into the cage, he stared down Weston Wilson to the point of embarrassment, like walking all the way across the cage, like getting in the face of the guy with the microphone and like peeking over his shoulder to like meet. It was obnoxious, Wheezy. Like, you want to set the tone. You want to set the mental game. You want to be one up on your opponent. I get that. I get all of that. I really do. But you're taking it just a tad bit too far, to the point that I was actively cheering for Weston Wilson by the time that fight started. I wanted Wilson to knock this guy out with a knee or some shit just because I hate to see the bully win. You know what I mean? And I wanted him to pay for that walkout. Unfortunately, he was so much faster and so much more athletic than Weston Wilson. It just didn't matter. He pieced the guy up on the feet. Weston Wilson never had a chance. Poor guy is going to get sent packing very, very quickly. He's got the same karate style as the rest of these fighting nerds do, except Gene Silva's a guy who's a little bit more fury than the rest of them, Wheezy. He's a little bit more willing to engage in the fight. He doesn't roll quite as well with the punches because all he's thinking about is coming back with a counter of his own. I actually think Gene Silva's probably the weak link when it comes to the Fighting Nerds guys. And it's because of that willingness to engage, where the other ones will be calm and patient and counter. This guy wants to take your head off with every single shot, and he's willing to take a shot to do that. And I think that's going to get him in trouble, especially once he gets a little bit higher up the ladder. And in this spot, interestingly enough, he opened up as a slight underdog. Now, William Gomis is 13-2, and he's the exact opposite of Gene Silva, except that he also pissed me off. This is a guy that Wheezy, I've said, is going to be a thorn in the side of the UFC because he's not particularly fun to watch. This guy is all staying away. He doesn't take damage. He's out of range constantly. He's got lots of movement and footwork, and he doesn't want you to touch him, but he wins fights because you can't find him in the octagon. It's a very frustrating style to fight against, I'm sure. And it's even more frustrating to watch because we just want to see people bleed in the cage. But he is not interested in bleeding at all. And if he can get his hand raised, he's going to find the way to do that while keeping all of his brain cells intact, which is probably pretty smart. But I think William Gomis is exactly the kind of guy that can take a Gene Silva in this spot because he's going to have a 4-inch reach advantage here in this spot. And I know everyone's talked about William Gomis and the struggles with his grappling. He's very obviously been working on that. You watch his last fight, grappling noticeably improved in that spot. He's got long, lanky arms. He's starting to attack subs and chokes. He's very, very young. And he's taking on a bully who's going to do nothing but try to force him to bang with him and throw big, powerful counter shots. And I think instead of Gene Silva not being there, I think Gomis is going to be the one who isn't there. I think Gomis can kick this guy from the outside. I think Gomis can jab this guy from the outside. And if Gene Silva wants to like force the grappling issue, I'm not so sure he's going to be able to wrestle Gomis for 15 minutes. And that's not his style. I'm going to pick the upset here, going against Brazil for the first time, I think. So no, I picked never mind. Not the first time. I picked Klose. I'm going to pick the upset. I think Gene Silva drops the ball for the Fighting Nerds here in this spot, Wheezy. I like the plus money. Plus 125. Unfortunately, I'm not sure where this line moved. I think it might have come down just a little bit. I was hoping people would continue to pile in here on Gene Silva, but I'm going to ride with the thorn in the side here. I think William Gomis is going to be a pain in the ass, and I think he'll do it just enough to get the win over Gene Silva on Saturday.
Damn it, Clint. We're agreeing again. I thought this would be the one where we go the other way. And I was looking at Gomis earlier at plus 145. For sure. I was looking at him at plus 145, and I was thinking to myself, I got to jump on that. And I didn't. And now it's plus 135 on Caesar, plus 119 on Bet Online. Looks like, but you know, Silva's the kind of guy that like is gonna get some steam. You know, I mean, like he's a fun guy to watch. You know, I mean, like. He's staring the opponent down. He's pulling that Ion Kutalaba shit, trying to walk across the cage before the fight starts. He's like, he's eccentric in ways that gets eyes. And Gomis is the opposite of that. He's a guy that's incredibly technically sound, you know? Mm-hmm. Dude, the biggest stat that we have to take into consideration on William Gomis is that this dude has a 78.8% distance striking defense. Like elite for any division is when you get up above 66, 67. This guy's 10% above elite. And when you watch him fight, you see why. He's constantly feinting, Clint, and he loves to counter. But he's also difficult to close distance against because A, he's a southpaw. So that straight left is going to come down the pipe every time you try to close distance. He's a Sanda practitioner, so he does have grappling experience mixed with great traditional martial arts style kicks. He's unusually tall and long for the division. This guy is not even 27 years old yet, and he's got 15 pro fights, and he's fought legitimate levels of competition. Go try to find tape on Gene Silva. I'll wait. You know why you can't find tape on Gene Silva? Because he's fighting in dudes' backyards against cab drivers, you know? And in one case, it was a mechanic who worked at a cab company, you know, working on their broken down cabs. So this guy has not fought the better brand of competition compared to Gomis. I think Gomis is going to do the same thing to Gene Silva at range that he's done to everybody else thus far in the UFC, which is frustrate them beyond all belief. Did you see Francis Marshall? After the first round, he goes back to his corner and is before Kurt Pellegrino even starts talking to him, He says, I can't hit this guy.
Yep.
I can't find this guy. He looks at his coach. He's like, I don't know what to do. I can't find this guy. I mean, this guy Gomis is really good, and I think he's pissing off a lot of people because he's not winning dominantly. But Jarno Aarons, I think, is probably just as good, if not better, of a kickboxer than Gene Silva is. Francis Marshall is a good wrestler, along with a solid boxer. Gamuri is a experienced mixed martial artist thus far, who's got a K1 kickboxing background. And Gomis is just kind of toying with these guys at range. He's absorbing 1.5 significant strikes per minute. And when you look at the most elite fighters in the UFC history, the one goddamn thing you're going to find every time is that these guys don't take damage. George St. Pierre, Matt Hughes, Islam Makhachev, Habib Nurmagomedov. Look at how many strikes that those guys are absorbing. Gregor Gillespie, some of the guys that are lesser known that just didn't really kind of like get all the way up the ladder. They're not out there taking 6 significant strikes per minute and just outlasting you, because then your chin won't last. They know how to stay safe. They absorb very little damage, and they just stack wins until you get sick of it. And I'm going to be betting William Gomis here. I'm probably going to be touching up the decision prop a little bit. I'd like to see that money line get back towards plus 145, and I think it will. But I like Gomis a lot here.
Love it. Love it, Wheezy. Like I said, Gomis actually opened up the favorite in this spot. So bookies agreed with us that he should be a slight favorite in this spot. And I will probably jump in at this point just to make sure I don't miss out on this line dropping any further. If I, fingers crossed that you're correct and this thing heads the other way, I wouldn't mind fading the market and just throwing up the double deuces and being like, okay, I'll add another unit then if you guys give me a better number on it later on. So we'll see how much I end up putting down on this one, but I like Gomis. I do like Gomis. And the it factor saying that Gomis doesn't do any damage. And that's true. That's true. But he also keeps his opponents from doing damage. Like if you're trading, he's the one who's landing. He might not bust you up. He might not hurt you, that kind of thing. So he's still the one who's scoring, right? He's still the one winning.
Hot take, Clint. I think that Gomis is going to knock somebody the fuck out very soon. He's very precise with his counter left, and his head kicks are fast. I could see him catching somebody's liver because he's a southpaw and in that opposite stance. I could see somebody walking onto a straight counter left, and I could see him punting somebody's head into the cheap seats if that head kick lands of his. So I think that he is going to get a knockout at some point. And the reason he hasn't yet, these guys are terrified to engage with him. Nobody's throwing volume against this guy either. So, and how dare Just Win Baby say that GSP is better than Gomis? Get the fuck out of here, man. No way. No way.
No, Wheezy.
We'll find that out soon enough.
I think you're absolutely correct. And what is the name of the kid who just fought? He got dropped by I'm blanking here. He got dropped by the UFC. He just got re-signed, and he came out here and whooped ass as an underdog and finished the guy he was supposed to get absolutely mauled by. I think he trains at Factory X. I can see his face, and I can't for the life of me remember his name. He fought during Ramadan, even though he's Muslim, because he was like, I'm gonna make up for it. Zalal, Youssef Zalal, Wheezy. This kid reminds me of Zalal. He's putting the pieces together. He's building the style. He's going to get there. You know what I mean? That is how I see this kid going. I think eventually he will find his way to putting a full game together, and he will get dangerous from that point. So I'm with you. I think he's going to finish somebody, and I think it's going to happen sooner than later. Maybe it's not this weekend, but I think we're going to be very, very surprised one of these fights very, very quickly. So I'm glad you and I agree on that one.
Absolutely.
All right, man. Next up, I've got a feeling we might agree again here. Elves Brener takes on Orolbai, and it's a spot where, what the hell do you do? Elves Brener has been an underdog in his last couple of fights, and he's just been absolutely monstrous, Wheezy. This guy, when people say he's got that dog in him, they mean Elves Brener. He's coming from shoot the box. He's got that classic killer be killed style. He wants to go out there and bang with people. My guy, Guram Katutuladze, about killed him in the first round. And I mean, it looked like a horror movie with his blood flying everywhere. It was a small cut. That's not what I'm talking about. The step in elbows that he landed on this kid in round one, Wheezy, he was stumbling all over the place. And very similarly to Nate the Train, I feel like Elvis Brener has that unique mutation where after he gets hurt, you can never hurt him again. Like once he gets hurt, if you don't kill him in that moment, you're just not going to get him. He'll find a way to stay on top. He'll find a way to survive, and then he will take you out down the road. I kind of feel like that's how this guy operates, but he just never stops coming forward. He's a sick BJJ practitioner. I believe that's how he got started, similar to like Charles Oliveira, who's over there at Shoot the Box, obviously. Rounded out his striking, and now he's a handful on the feet. He hits really hard. He's very aggressive. He plods his way forward, and they're giving us plus money again, Wheezy. This is that spot where, frankly, I've talked about it before. I feel like it's a trap. I'm not the foremost market expert, right? But anytime you get a guy who's a dog and cashes, who's a dog and cashes, and then they give you the biggest, widest line on him yet, they're like, he's a dog, come get it. Like it really feels to me like the books are like, we're going to give them a big number because they'll take it. And it's the wrong side to be on. That's kind of what I feel like is happening here. But at the same time, I really don't want to stand in front of this kid because he keeps on digging deep. Every time he's about to lose, he steps on the gas and he ends up killing the guy across the cage from him. It's incredible. Now, Myktybek Orolbai is brand new to the UFC, 12-1-1. He's just 26 years old. I thought he was older than that, but he's got 12 wins, and just one of those comes by decision. This guy's a finisher, Wheezy. And I thought, you watch his UFC debut against Uros Medic, 170, short notice, mauls the guy. Just absolutely mauls him. Takes his back, taps him out, easy peasy. No problem for him. I'm thinking this guy he should be a Russian, right? He's a monster grappler. He can strike. Like, this guy's got great hands, Wheezy. And you go back to some of his regional tapes, some of his regional footage. He is face planting people. I mean, like, he lands an uppercut and they are shut off. He turns around and walks away with his hands up because he knows, and they're like timbering down to the floor. It takes him 5 minutes to wake these guys up. He's got heat in his hands. He just keeps on pushing forward. He forces the grappling when he needs to. He is very dangerous with his body lock and his transitions to the back. He dumps people. He will like marob you. He'll pick you up and just slam you to the floor. And it looks like he's got cardio for days. This guy's a beast, Wheezy, an absolute monster, and he's moving down to 155 pounds. Now, Uros is not the biggest 170 pounder in the world, but he was a very large 155er, and that's why he moved up in the first place. He's kind of found his groove up at 170, and Orolbai ragdolled him. I mean, it wasn't even competitive. Now, I feel like the BJJ of Brener is going to cause maybe some problems for Orolbai. It's going to be a little bit more competitive on the ground. Brener has showed that he's actually got some decent offensive wrestling chops of his own. So I'm not sure it's going to be quite so one-sided here in this spot, but I think I got to pick Orolbai, man. I really feel like he's the rightful favorite in this spot. And if you're thinking of him as just a grappler, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised that he can stand and strike and he can bang as well. Minus 265 on Orolbai. I kind of like it. Might be a parlay piece for me, but again, I'm terrified of putting any money against Elvis Brener. Wheezy, are we disagreeing? Are we finally on opposite sides, or what are we doing on this one?
Well, I don't have a passionate take on this one because, like, Orolbai is the kind of guy that I hate betting against. These are frustrating fighters. The way that this dude fights, you go and you watch that Jalen Fuller fight, and Jalen Fuller is just wearing Orolbai for the full 15 minutes. I mean, it was so frustrating. I mean, if you're counting mat returns, I think Orolbai probably took him down about 15 times, and he just wears you out. And if he doesn't want to strike with you, that's always there for him. And that option is there, and he will just sniff crotch for the full 15. And you're not going to be able to have a chance to breathe. Every time you get up, he's just going to wind up locking his hands and bringing you right back down. He's ridiculously strong. And the problem is, dude, when somebody has the wrestling of Orolbai, right? When you have to worry about that wrestling, their striking can suck and they can still knock you down. They can still hurt you because you're not even worried about the striking. But like you mentioned, This guy kind of reminds me of Fakhretdinov a lot because he can wrestle like Fakhretdinov. But the thing about Fakhretdinov is he'll drop your ass too. He's got heavy power in his hands. And Orolbai has the same thing.
I always
Now,
think of
Brener,
that big bomb Khabib landed on McGregor.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Nobody was expecting that. And
no one saw it coming.
And I guarantee that at least of all, it was Conor, because Conor didn't give a shit about his striking. He's just like, I just got to worry about this guy not taking me down. And then before you know it, you're looking up at the lights and he's on top of you again. And what, you're like, what, did I get knocked out getting taken down? No, you ate a big overhand left because you're not watching out for this dude striking. So, yeah, everything that I saw from Orolbai it just screams dominance. And what did I say last time about, not absorbing strikes?
Yep.
Well, he might have only landed 0.9 per minute, but he's absorbing 1.5. You're not going to finish guys landing 1.5 significant strikes per minute. 22 and a half significant strikes over 15 minutes is not going to win a fight, especially when, you're getting controlled for 14 out of those 15 minutes, constantly fighting off submission attempts and just exhausted. So I do like Orolbai here, but I don't like the price going into Brazil and fighting a guy like Elves Brener, who does have very slick submissions. He's 11-0 to the submission. So there might be just a little bit of hesitancy to take this guy down because you're giving him a little bit of what he wants. But Orolbai's grappling is dominant. And yeah, I'm not laying the juice on him. I'm not standing in his way either. This is going to be a data collection exercise here on the Orolbai side.
I like it, Wheezy. And honestly, man, kind of like I talked about with the whole line thing where they're baiting you with the plus money, I feel like the UFC sets a trap every single fight. It reminds me of when like Diego Sanchez win his own backyard and they were like, Alex Pereira. Like there's always one or two guys on every single card. They're going to stack this thing with Brazilians. But there's one or two spots where they don't actually believe in the hometown guy. You know what I mean? And this, I feel like, is that spot where it's like big card, big highlight. We're going to have a bunch of Brazilians, but the Brazilian's not the star here. You know this guy. You don't know this guy yet. Let's introduce you to this guy. You know what I mean? Like that's really what this feels like to me here. So yeah, let's go Orolbai. All right, everybody. Next fight up, we've got Karolina Kowalkiewicz. She is taking on Iasmin Lucindo. And here we go, Weezy. This is what I was talking about, man. This was the spot. You guys know very, very well of my attempts to fade Karolina Kowalkiewicz. Weezy, when she lost to, I believe it was Yan Xiaonan before she retired, I saw the light in her eyes die. I saw the fire completely disappear. She didn't want it. She didn't have it. It's not just, hey, I'm done. I'm going to hang it up. I'm going to retire. She lost the will, it really looked like. Now, she has come back from said retirement, looks like a new woman, and she's rattled off 4 in a row. And I have faded her, I think, in 3 of those 4. So I have burned money trying to be on the other side of Karolina Kowalkiewicz because I simply do not believe in her at this stage of her career. I don't believe she wants to be in there. I don't believe she wants to fight. And you can see whenever she gets tagged, man, she has zero interest in absorbing punishment. If she gets tagged on the feet, she gets it to the ground as quickly as humanly possible. And she's really been reliant on those takedowns and the grappling in a lot of these fights. And she's fighting, let's be fair about it, Wheezy, the bottom of the barrel. Felice Herrig, that was her retirement fight. Silva Gomez Juarez, she got cut shortly thereafter. Vanessa Demopoulos, I like Vanessa, I really do. But if she can't just kind of out-muscle you, she ain't winning. And then Diana Belbita, that's the one that I really expected more from Diana Belbita. I was pretty frustrated with the loss on that one because I fully expected Belbita to be the one who could hit her hard enough to make her sit up and take notice in that spot. But, takedowns get it done yet again, unfortunately. But man, this is it. Weezy, this is the spot. Iasmin Lucindo is a different animal. She is a absolute stud. She is young. She is fast. She hits hard. and she's got a 2-inch reach advantage. She's a finisher. I mean, she took out Polyana Viana in that last fight. Not a lot of people were looking at her do it by sub, but she dominated, crawled her way to a dominant position, and then tapped her out. I do not believe that Karolina Kowalkiewicz is going to be safe grappling with Iasmin Lucindo. And then when they're on the feet, I mean, you just got to go back to the Lucindo and Horegi UFC debut spot. She's going to bang it out, man. There is no way Karolina is going to want anything to do with the hands on Lucindo. I think she's going to hurt her, and I think she's going to do it early. This is a spot where I really, really love Iasmin Lucindo. And Weezy, I think the move is to just anchor every single bet I make on Iasmin Lucindo. What could possibly go wrong?
Yeah,
Parlaying women's MMA.
Nothing.
I might legitimately just go, you know what? This is a money line, playable straight. Parlay it up with Lucindo. This is a proper, a total. Parlay it with Lucindo. I think, Lizzie, I don't use the word lock. I never use the word lock. It's something that I feel like is a 4-letter word in gambling. There's no such thing. Iasmin Lucindo is a lock on Saturday. I am going to do my very best job to get as much money on her in this spot as I possibly can. I'm going to win back all the fades on Karolina. She's not going to get me this week. Iasmin Lucindo, and she might even knock her out.
I mean, Iasmin Lucindo is a woman with a throat tattoo who started professional MMA at the age of 15. At the age of 15.
Never bet against a neck tattoo in women's MMA.
That's terrifying. That is just terrifying, you know? I mean, like you combine the throat tattoo and the love for mixed martial arts at a young age, willing to take tough fights as a young woman. She's already got 20 professional fights in 200 minutes of cage time. Think about that. She's only 22 years old.
It's crazy.
And, you know, in Karolina's last 4 wins, Felice Herrig, Silvana Gomez Juarez, Vanessa Demopoulos, Diana Belbita, you could probably put all 4 of them in the cage at the same time with Lucindo, and she'd probably take out 2 or 3 of them, you know, before she finally got outnumbered and tired. But, you know, yeah, I mean, I like Lucindo. She's just going to be getting better. And she seems, you know, she seems like a fighter. Like, she reminds me of Denise Gomez a little bit. Like, she's going to go in there and just throw down. And that Iasmin Jauregui debut was such an eye-opener because Jauregui is such a clean, technical striker. And to go out there and just go in the pocket and throw down with her for 3 full rounds and absorb as many strikes as she did and still look good, still land those big shots. She showed how much heart she has. She showed how game she is. Dude, she's 16 years younger than Karolina Kowalkiewicz, you know? But I want to bring up one thing, and I would be remiss if I didn't. Karolina Kowalkiewicz is on a fucking run, Clint. This woman is she's in South Florida. She's not in Poland. She's in South Florida, and she is underneath that sun. She's getting that vitamin D, and she's stacking wins by flapjacks. Like, if she comes into the cage looking like George Hamilton again, I don't know, man. She might find a way to pull this out. And Iasmin Lucindo has got a great tan of her own, but Karolina Kowalkiewicz is one of those women that tans spectacularly. And when she's really tan, it shows in the cage, and it seems to weaken their opponents mentally a little bit. It's not something you can put a number on. It's not something you can cap, Clint, but it's something I think I would be remiss if I didn't make your audience aware of, my friend.
It's fair, Weezy. It's fair. Thank you for mentioning that. But I really think the stronger angle here is the neck tattoo. Look at Ketlin Souza last week. It's just the neck tattoos, they're damn near undefeated in women's MMA, Weezy. It's like men with beards, okay? The bigger beard wins, period. The neck tattoo in women's MMA is just a force that cannot be reckoned with. I like it.
And look at Caio Borralho. Free spirit right across the throat. Also undefeated in the UFC. Coincidence? You fucking tell me. I don't know. You tell me.
So are you saying he's a woman?
No, I'm saying he's undefeated and he's got a throat tattoo. So, you know, I don't know. Maybe we just touched on something here that might be pushing me going forward.
Oh, man. Get the records. Got to find out. All right, everybody, real quick, let's pay a couple of bills here. Of course, you know this is the home of fight. I'm joined by Uncle Weezy, guys. We've got a link to the Discord in the description. Come hang out. There's a paid and a free version. Come hang out with me in the free version. And if you feel like getting picks from the actual professionals, feel free to jump on the paid promo code DieHard. We'll cut that price tag down there for you. But it's a fun place to be. Next up, Spectation Sports, regional MMA. You're going to get lots of shows. We've got good stuff upcoming here. Aries FC is always on here. Hey, FAC 24 is this weekend. If you're looking to bet Dana White's Contender Series, they have a lot of the stars that you're going to see coming from these pools. It's better than Fight Pass. Again, promo code DieHard will get you, I think, 20% off when you sign up. So make sure you go check that out. Get some more MMA in your life. Last but certainly not least, we have got Bet Openly. I am currently running the Gauntlet 2. We did the Gauntlet a couple of months ago. Everybody absolutely loved it. We are running it again. Unfortunately, if you didn't get on, you have to do the entire 6 weeks straight. So you're too late. But what you can do is save money on Bet Openly by getting better lines on absolutely fucking everything. Like, just look at some of these numbers, guys. Like I said, it's peer-to-peer, so you're not having a bookie in the middle, which means 1% juice. The winner of the bet pays the 1%. If you're betting on Bet Openly, you are saving money long term. Look at this. Ismael Bonfim is a minus 442. You get plus 442 on Michel because only the winner pays that 1% fee on here. So you're saving. You're not laying minus 110. There's no gap. It's not minus 135 and plus 115. It's minus 135 and plus 135. Long term, you guys want to be on Bet Openly. There's a link to that in the description as well. Come hang out, save some money betting. That's what it's all about. Next fight up, Wheezy. One that I am very curious to hear about from you here. We've got Joanderson Brito, and he's taking on Jack Shore. I've got some very recent history with both these guys. Joanderson Brito, we talked about it last week. This man absolutely ruined my night with JSP. JSP was doing absolutely everything I wanted him to, and he took just that split-second opportunity when GSP pissed him off to grab his neck and tap him out. One of the tightest squeezes you'll see in the UFC. This guy's a freak, Wheezy. He is. I figured it out. He's my new Yoel Romero. He will explode and he will get tired, but it doesn't matter. He will do it again. Like, he's got the mental fortitude to just keep on pushing even when he gets exhausted. And he's dangerous for every single second of every single fight that he's in. Now, he's been knocked out once. He's been submitted once. Believe it or not, he's won 2 fights by decision. So he can go the full 15 minutes. But more often than not, people can't handle the physicality of this guy. He's dangerous on the ground. He's dangerous with his hands. The Andre Fili knockout is one that I've tried to bet against this guy more than I care to admit, Wheezy, because I tried to fade him with Fili. I tried to fade him with Pierce. Not only did he win those fights, but he finished my guys. And I thought I had angles in those spots. Now here he's taking on Jack Shore. I had one of maybe the smoothest moves I think I've ever called in my history of betting. Jack Shore against Makwan Amirkhani, Wheezy. I bet when it was the dark ages, before DraftKings got busted by bettors and they let you do same game parlays with stupid numbers attached to them, I did Makwan Amirkhani round 1 takedown plus Jack Shore money line, and it was better odds than you ever would have gotten live betting Jack Shore in that fight, because everybody knows Makwan Amirkhani has 5 minutes of gas. He's an incredible grappler. He's a great wrestler. He's a force early. As soon as he gets tired, that's not the case. So we knew if he gets that takedown, the money line would come down to like minus 130, or something like that. You're never going to get plus money on Shore going into round 2. But it was like a plus 180 line on the same game parlay or something. I felt real good about that one. I felt really smart there for a second. I also bet on Ricky Simone against Jack Shore in a spot that I was very convinced that Ricky was going to be a much, much better grappler, physically stronger, and that would be a problem for Shore. I really feel like the shine has kind of come off Jack Shore, man. He was really a guy that was hyped up big time, moved up to 145 pounds, and they gave him just the perfect opponent in Makwan Amirkhani, a guy who they knew he could outlast and then turn the tables on. But is that what he has here against Joanderson Brito? Because I don't know he's going to be able to turn the tables on Joanderson Brito. If you give this guy a round on you, he might kill you. And I know it's a very recency bias type of spot with what Brito's been able to do to people. But even calling exactly how the Amirkhani fight would have gone, man, I feel like Jack Shore has been almost exposed to a certain extent, where he's just not quite as good as we thought he was. At 145, Yeah, he doesn't have to cut as much weight, but is he as physical up here? Is he going to be able to control people the way he did at 135 up at this weight class? I'm not so convinced. So I don't want to write him off as dead. I think Jack Shore is a very, very competitive fighter. He's going to be live in this spot, especially if he can maintain stick like glue to Brito and just keep chaining the way that JSP did. That's got to be the game plan in this spot. Some money has come in on Shore. Brito is now minus 155. Shore is plus 130. And I think I'm going to pass, Wheezy. I think I'm going to pick Joanderson Brito, but I really can see Shore coming on in rounds 2 and 3 the way that JSP failed to and win a very close competitive fight. But we're in Brazil, so a close fight could go to Brito. And Brito always has the nuclear option. There's just too much happening here. I think there's better spots on the card, and it's one I'm not interested in putting my money on. I'll pick Joanderson Brito to do it again, but I'm not going to lose money fading one of these guys at the wrong time.
Yeah, this is an interesting fight because Shore, this is his second fight up at featherweight. He won his featherweight debut against a completely washed Makwan Amirkhani. He got submitted by Ricky Simon, second round arm triangle choke after getting dropped by Ricky Simon down at 135. And then before that, he has a 5-fight winning streak in the UFC. Timur Valiev, definitely his best win by a country mile, but not a fighter that I'm really that impressed with.
Wheezy, I was actually going to pose that question to you. I was going to ask, what is Jack Shore's best win? Because I think you could argue that it was maybe Ludovic Klein, who's now like 9-3 and back on the regional scene. Like Timur Valiev is getting his ass kicked on the regionals right now too. So I don't even know who his best win is at this point.
Yeah, he never fought Ludovic Klein. That would not have went his way. He fought Ludovic Shalinian.
I'm sorry, Shalinian.
Terrible.
My bad.
Euro trash grappler. So yeah, I mean, like this guy's best win is Timur Valiev, and Valiev outlanded him 72-70, but Shore landed 2 knockdowns. Ludovic Shalinian is a bum. Hunter Azure outlanded him 45-36. Shore just kind of sniffed crotch the whole time, got a little bit more control time, and won a split decision. Aaron Phillips is one of his wins, and then the first win was against Nohelin Hernandez. So, like, the first 3 guys that he beat in the UFC have got a combined record of 2-11, and then he beats Ludovic Shalinian, who's 0-2 in the UFC. He beats Timur Valiev, who's been knocked out by Trevin Jones, lost to Jack Shore, and has wins over Hani Barcelos, a fight that should have been a draw. And Timur Valiev beat the 0-5 Martin Day, and then lost in the Tough House recently as well. So up a weight class, I think Shore needs to be very physical here, and we've seen Brito get taken down and controlled on the regional scene and in the UFC against Jonathan Pierce. Algio as well was able to, kind of win some minutes controlling and slowing down Brito. So I think Shore has that path, but they're not scoring that path. It's like the judges' chairs turn around the second somebody gets a takedown, and they pretend like it never happened, and that controlling another grown man is easy. So whoever does more damage here is probably going to win this fight. And in what world is Jack Shore going to do more damage than Joanderson Brito? Frankly, I'm shocked, Clint. I don't know why this line is going the other way. I parlayed up Brito at 170, minus 170. Now it's minus 155. I think that he's just way more dangerous. I think he's got all the finishing equity here. I mean, if this guy can last 2.5 rounds on the ground with Diego Lopez, do you think fucking Jack Shore is submitting him? Really? I mean, maybe winning minutes, maybe crotch sniffing, but they're not even scoring that anymore. So
that's true.
I like Brito here a lot, and I don't think this line is wide enough.
Okay. All right. We're agreeing once again, Wheezy. We'll see where this number goes. I mean, again, maybe I buy low if it gets down low enough. If they eventually they force my hand to click on Joanderson Brito, then I will. He is at home. He does have the scoring upside. We'll just, I'm just uncomfortable, man. Both these guys, I think, have a chance to really impress here in this spot. So we'll see how it plays out. But We do agree on paper, at least. All right, next up, we got the return of Paul, the Bear Jew Craig. He is taking on the king of the fighting nerds, Caio Borralho. And, man, I don't know what it is, Wheezy. I'm just not sold on Caio. I know. Everyone's going to riot in the chat. I just am not sold on Caio. I know he's extremely intelligent. I know he's in great shape. I mean, but I kind of thought he lost the Mahmoud Muradov fight. I think I've talked about that before, where it was like super close and he didn't do much with his takedowns. And he does get those takedowns, but he doesn't do a whole lot with them sometimes. And he did kind of turn a corner and he submitted Michel Oleksiejczuk. Yeah, congrats. But anybody who's a grappler is going to submit Michel Oleksiejczuk. Like, I know it. Abus Magomedov, a guy that really got the shine taken off him. He won that fight. Now they're giving him a name. They're trying to push him. They're giving him good matchmaking. I get it. Paul Craig, not the best chin in the world. Big, physical. Looks like he's much better down a weight class in his last couple of fights. You always have to be careful of the TKO. If you, everyone wants to play Paul Craig by sub, but he really likes to get on top of people and just kind of pound them through the canvas. He can knock people out, and it seems like more often than not, he actually wants to do that. So that's off, that's on the table, but he does not have a run going right now, man. He's 1-3 in his last 4 fights, and it seems like he's very susceptible to being finished against people who have any kind of power in their hands. The UFC wants Caio to succeed here in this spot. Paul Craig will take bottom. Caio can wrestle on top. Caio can kind of stick and move and jab on his way outside. He can definitely school Paul Craig on the feet, and if Caio decides to go for it, the knockout will be there. I don't like it. Minus 550. It's Caio. I got to pick Caio. He probably finishes Paul Craig. I get it. But I would love one more Paul Craig win for the culture, Wheezy. It would make my day.
Yeah, this is a fun fight, dude, because you can always just say, you know what, quarter unit on Paul Craig by sub, I
mean, the culture.
It's a system bet. I mean, like this guy submitted Magomed Ankalaev with 1 second left in the 3rd round, and with a triangle choke that was only on for about 3 seconds. That's how badly people panic when this guy locks up submissions from his guard. He's absolutely dangerous, and he can always do that. But Caio Borralho is a lot of things, Clint. He's a free spirit. We know that. He is a well-rounded mixed martial artist with very good fight IQ that comes from a camp that's known for having good game plans and building smart, well-rounded fighters. But he is not a finisher. He chokes out Michel Oleksiejczuk and he gets in the camera. He says, "Me? I don't finish fights." Yeah, you don't finish fights, dude. You've finished 1 fight out of 5 wins. You've never
biggest gas bag in the division.
Yeah, dude. Dude that's got no ground game at all. Yeah, you rear naked choke that guy. I think there are a couple other people that did as well. I think Oven St. Preux choked that dude out. So don't get in the camera. Calm down a little bit. But you see, here's the funny thing, right? It's a Paul Craig fight. So that fight doesn't go to decision, is going to be juiced to the tits, right?
Yeah.
Paul Craig has had 16 3-round fights in the UFC. 14 of those 16 have finished inside the distance. But is Paul Craig submitting Caio Borralho, a Damian Maia black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu? Maybe. I mean, I think he could submit anybody if the right transition happens, if he catches you in that triangle, but I don't think it's very likely. And is Caio Borralho going to finish Paul Craig? Because if he takes him down and goes into his guard, he's going to need to be very careful in there. Is he going to be able to posture up and rain down ground and pound? No, he's not. He'd be better off not doing that. He'd be better off just kind of landing short shots.
Range.
Yeah, so the over 1.5 rounds at minus 175, and the fight goes to decision at plus 180. I think they're cheeky plays. The data doesn't love it because it's a Paul Craig fight, but stylistically, I don't think Paul Craig, who's a submission or bust type of finisher for the most part, is going to be submitting Caio Borralho. And Caio Borralho is probably not going to submit Paul Craig, who's a fantastic grappler in his own right. And I think while it's on the feet, it's going to be fairly low volume and fairly close. I think that the finishing equity of both fighters being a little bit overstated here, and a cheeky little play as that fight goes at plus 180, or maybe parlaying up the over 1.5 rounds at minus 175. And guess what? I already did it. Minus 175 over 1.5 rounds, parlayed with the Joanderson Brito money line, gave me plus 150. But you'll get even better than that now because Brito is no longer minus 170. The money's coming in on Shore, so you can get that parlay at even a better price, maybe closer to 155 or 160. That's a play that I think is I think it's going to hit. I've already bet it myself. I like it.
Okay. All right. Hey, I would love me some Paul Craig for the culture. I like bucking the trend here on the over. I'm going to go chalk. And I'm going to say that the UFC has done him another favor. They gave him a highlight reel submission, Wheezy. I think they're trying to get him a highlight reel KO. I'm going to say Caio knocks Paul Craig out on the feet with like one of the big counter shots that his partners like to use, and we just don't see very often out of him. On home soil in Brazil, I think he goes for it. I'm going to say he gets the KO. And the bookies are kind of onto it. They're only giving you plus 275 on a guy who doesn't knock anybody out. So they kind of know what's up here in this spot, I feel like. But it is what it is. All right, guys. Next up, we've got Michel Pereira taking on Ihor Potieria, the duelist himself, filling in here on short notice in this spot. And it's one of those weird spots, Wheezy, where we've got a guy coming up versus a guy going down. And Michel Pereira looks phenomenal since coming up from 170. I never knew how he made 170 in the first place. But at 185, he looks like his same old self, just a little bit more deadly because he's not so worried about the cardio. And it looks like the power absolutely has translated. Ihor actually looked pretty decent in his last fight. You know, since dropping down a weight class, he was always a little small. He was always a little slim. And the speed was his thing. But he couldn't bang with those big 205ers. He couldn't get in there and slug it out with these guys because he just didn't have the durability to hang. He's got a much smaller frame, and he looks really good at 185. So who's got the advantage? The guy who's a little bit smaller now, who's used to being a size bully, is going to be on the small side in this fight. Pereira is going to be at a disadvantage size-wise, even though I think he's the better of the two fighters. Ihor got to show some of what he's made of in his last fight because he didn't get starched right away by a guy. He got to kind of put a full show on out there, and he actually looked pretty decent. I think Ihor gets a bit of a bad rap. He's probably a little bit better than people are giving him credit for, but I don't think he's going to beat Michel Pereira. However, Michel Pereira is totally like a current streak type of guy, right? Like everybody and their mother knows about this guy now. He was getting much nicer price tags not too long ago, but after a couple of big wins, the secret's out. He's a big favorite here once again in this spot, Wheezy. And again, I'm just kind of uncomfortable with it. When it comes to betting, I don't like grabbing these giant chalk price tags. I mean, maybe, like you said in your tweet, maybe you can link up 6 of these and get even money, and that's fine. You know, if that's what you want to do, but that's not my style.
Yeah.
I want more return on my investment. Now, if there is a low-hanging fruit spot, if it's like, oh, this is just never losing and you can chalk up and take it, I'll do that. But I don't want to parlay 4 or 5 guys and get even money because sometimes one of them shits the bed. You know, this could be the one that shits the bed, Wheezy, where like he finally found a guy who's just a little quicker than him, who's a little bit longer than him. I don't like Ihor's durability, so I do think eventually Michel Pereira is going to find a shot and put him down. Maybe one of those big body shots he's been well known for. Maybe it's the flying knee, you know, the cartwheel kick off the cage, all the shit that he does. He finds his way to a shot and he puts Ihor down. I'm picking Michel Pereira to still win the fight, especially since he'll be on home soil in Brazil. And like my guy Dream in the chat says, revenge for Shogun, because Ihor did go ahead and spoil the party his last time out in Brazil. I think we got Pereira here in this spot, probably inside the distance, but I just hate the number.
Yeah, the number's disgusting is what it is. Minus 600 on this guy, a guy that's lost to Tristan Connolly after gassing out dancing. You know, a guy that actually lost
that happened. That's
to Diego Sanchez. You know, Diego Sanchez, who had, you know, Anthony Fabia in his corner, in his, you know, like actually beat that dude. You know, yeah, it was because of an illegal knee, but he's still, you know, like that's a lapse in judgment. That's the kind of banana peel shit that could break a minus 600 money line. And, you know, I was joking around because I had Oleg Sejcek against Pereira last time out, and Oleg Sejcek got smoked. It was a horrible bet. I felt like a jerk off. But when Pereira came out with a coordinated dance routine, I was joking around on Pub Sports Radio about like, Oh my God, this bet's gonna cash. He's dancing, like he's
It's a
dancing
lock,
like
Wheezy.
he did in the Connolly fight. But yeah, no.
Everybody who dances on their way to the cage, they win. It's an
know.
instant win. Game over.
He absolutely just destroyed Oleg Sejcek. But I just don't. I'm not laying this juice, dude. Oleg Sejcek was admitting that he didn't even train for the Pereira fight, that he was like in a garage with his buddies, said he didn't need a game plan. He's a striker. Before that, it was Petrosky, who they gave a call to in Thailand. And they're like, hey, man, I know you're on vacation, but you want to fight Michel Pereira in 6 days? He fucking flies back and gets his ass whooped.
That guy just got knocked out by a hip, Wheezy. I don't want to hear it. He got knocked out by a hip.
Oh, God. I was in Italy when that happened, and I'd been drinking this beautiful wine. We were in Tuscany. Things were just beautiful. And I tweeted that, like, I'm so drunk on good Italian wine and beautiful Italian scenery that I could have sworn I just saw Andre Petrosky get knocked out shooting a takedown, which is exactly what happened, But yeah, this Pereira looks fantastic. He looks like a new fighter up here at 185. But a couple of quick little finishes are the kind of things that could drive the line so far in one direction that this could be a banana peel spot. Like Ihor Petrino could wind up pulling this out, dude. Like you said, he's much bigger than this dude. He's younger. He's been fighting big hitters in Carlos Ulberg and Rodolfo Bellato, So the fact that Pereira has been a big hitter is not anything different than what Potieria has been seeing. Nikolai Negamarianu, the guy's got a head like an Easter Island statue, and you can hit him with everything that you have, and he won't go away. That's not Pereira, really, Pereira doesn't even like pressure, dude. I mean, like you watch the Ponzinibbio fight. Ponzinibbio's winning when he's walking forward. So, I mean, I'm staying away. I'm not fading this guy Pereira right now. He looks like he's on all the good stuff, and it's all coming together like butt cheeks for him right now. So I'm not getting in the way of that. But there's probably some value in the Potieria money line here. But I'm not going to get there, my friend. I'm just not going to get there.
Yeah, this is one of those ones where the bookies are going the line so wide we don't want your money. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it makes sense. He's the favorite. The line's too wide, but you're probably burning money trying to play the other side on this particular one. Maybe we can fade Pereira one of these days. I don't think Ihor's the guy to do it with. We'll see though. I will be very, very intrigued in this fight live, and if I can find an angle to bet Potieria in game, I may take that shot. You got to see how these two are playing, and once they get in there, and if he's able to take the shots and, things like that. That's where live betting really can be a tool and a weapon for you. So, pass, pre-flop, maybe take a stab at the dog live in that kind of a spot if you like it. Otherwise, just let this one go. I'm okay with that. It should be fun to watch.
Absolutely.
All right.
Agreed.
Next up, we've got Anthony Smith, and he takes on Vitor Petrino. Anthony Smith has potential to make UFC history, being the first fighter to ever win consecutive fights on consecutive weekends by knockout, Wheezy. He just got off a big win last weekend. We cashed a ticket. Dog of the week. Link and Zelda are not steering us wrong, Wheezy. We were live on the show, and I was starting to kind of chip away at, I kind of want to bet Guskov. I thought about betting Guskov. It's close. I want to fade Span. And right as I'm going through that monologue, my girl Zelda here barks and starts going nutso, and everyone in the chat heard it. And that was it, man. We went with it. Link Memorial Dog of the Week. He came through for us, survived round one grappling, which I frankly didn't expect to happen if he got taken down that way. But then we went ahead and cashed a nice big fat ticket. And for those of you who are wondering at home, by the way, I am tracking the Link Memorial Dog of the Week record. And as of right now, if you played one unit on it, we're 6-8. So we've got more losses than we do wins, but it's plus 0.4 units. So profitable because of that plus money. Link has not steered us wrong so far, Wheezy, in the year 2024. So hopefully we can keep that going. But no, in all seriousness, Anthony Smith is not bogged on Guskov. Even though Ben Davis wants them to do, a blood test, I promised I'd ask at Thanksgiving dinner if they'd be willing to do that. These are my brothers, my cousins. I've been high on Vitor Petrino. Wheezy, and I think a lot of people have though, right? He's a very interesting young prospect. He's got all the juice, all of it. He's on the best supplements the world has to offer. Just 26 years old, 7 wins by knockout, but he can wrestle. he showed in his last couple of fights that he is more than capable of taking the fight down to the ground. Now, he cost me money and pissed me off against Marcin Prachniow when he decided he wanted to get a submission on his record because he frankly could. But it opened my eyes to what this guy's capable of. And then again, in the Tyson Pedro fight, if he needs to get the fight to the ground, he can. And really, that's something I think that favors him in this fight a whole lot more than just his knockout power. Anthony Smith is still a tough son of a bitch. He might be slowly losing that durability, Wheezy. It seems to slowly be ticking off. Even his last fight against Khalil Roundtree, it took Khalil till the third round to finally get him out of there. But there were a couple of big shots that landed, and you saw him kind of like shake it where he was like, oh, that didn't feel good. Anthony Smith never really used to do that. He would just take the abuse and keep coming forward. Now you can see he's kind of flinching at some of these big shots. And I just don't think, I think all these fight miles are finally starting to add up on him, man. 37-19. This man has over 50 professional fights. That's a lot of wear and tear on your body. And he's 35. He's not young. So this is something that he's been able to power through. I don't know that he can keep powering through it. Eventually it's going to get to the point where it's just too much to ask of his body to keep going. Now, Vitor is still very raw. And this is the kind of spot where Anthony Smith fucks everybody up. You expect him to just be done, and then he pulls one. He got the split decision over Ryan Spann not too long ago that a lot of people weren't expecting. The first fight with Ryan Spann, where he choked him out in the first fucking round, a lot of people weren't really expecting that. I mean, this is a guy that was even money against Devin Clark and then bulldozed his way through him in the first round. Like, I've made a lot of arguments for Anthony Smith, Wheezy. I really have, because the guy's got a skill set. He's got a very solid skill set, and the durability allows him to put that skill set to work. He's a decent striker. He hits decently hard. His main point of victory is that grappling, though. His submission skills, they're really solid. And if you get to the ground with this guy, he can surprise you. Now, the issue I have with Anthony Smith, after kind of giving the idea of what he could potentially do in a win, is he just has no urgency to get off his back, Wheezy.
Yeah, none.
He's a turtle. As soon as you take this guy down, he's not moving. You will just bank an entire round off of him with one takedown. It's that simple. And that right there is, believe it or not, where I think Vitor Petrino's best path to victory lies. Because if he hits him with a big shot, or if he gets countered and Smith decides he's going to throw down, this guy can just take him down. Just level change, put Smith on his back, and he will sit there for 4 or 5 minutes. It's very, very easy for Vitor Petrino to win 2 of these rounds. And even if it gets a little hairy, even if it gets a little gross, he's a young prospect, guys. He's taking on a guy with a lot of experience. And believe it or not, looking at this run he's on, it will be by far the best win on Vitor Petrino's record if he gets it done on Saturday. This is a big step up in competition. It's not necessarily going to be as easy as people are making it out to be. I think Vitor by decision is a sneaky look in this spot rather than Vitor by KO. And frankly, if you wanted to take a long shot flyer on Anthony Smith round 3 or some shit like that, Anthony Smith by submission, I wouldn't even blame you, because this is exactly the kind of spot where Lionheart shows up and reminds everybody why he's been hanging around the rankings in this weight class forever. So yeah, man, I think it's a spot where I'm definitely staying away from the parlay on Vitor Petrino. Again, I'm going to pick him to win, but maybe this one more so than some of the others I'm very skeptical on and don't want to get too invested in Vitor Petrino. I like the decision probably better than anything.
Yeah, where's the line on Petrino? We got minus 550.
Yeah.
Come on, man. I mean, dude, it's 85% implied probability. Several steps up the ladder, so to speak, And I mean, dude, like if you watched Smitty before the UFC, dude, that guy would get his ass beat for 2.5 rounds, and then he'd lock up a triangle and win, and you'd be like, "Holy shit, did he just do it again?" And
he
like
just outlast you.
Yeah, man, and and the thing about Smith is the guy really is legitimately extremely durable, but at the same time, he gets finished all the time, dude. This guy has been finished 15 times in 19 losses, and he's named Lionheart. And so, like, the only conclusion that you can come to, really, when you look at the career of Anthony Smith, is that win or lose, this guy's going to get the shit kicked out of him in every single fight.
Every
single fight. Some of them he will come back and win. Some of them he'll be spitting out his teeth between rounds. But this guy's going to be there. He was meant to do this. You know, he's got a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. He's very durable. He's got a ton of heart. He's got some power on the feet. He's got a ridiculous, experience resume behind him. He's fought for the title. Everyone thought he was done at 185. The guy goes up to 205. He puts together a winning streak. Before you know it, he's fighting John Jones. And if he just said, kind of like what Diego Sanchez said after Pereira kneed him in the head when he was
could have got a belt wrapped around his waist.
Fight anymore. I mean, like Anthony Smith would have been the first guy the second guy to beat John Jones after Matt Hamill got his face pounded through the canvas and was awarded a victory. But I digress to all that. I mean, I'm not betting on Petrino. And I'm not betting on Smith. I mean, I think Petrino should get the job done here. He's how much younger, dude? He's 9 years younger than this guy. He's got 45 less fights. I mean, there's so much less, miles on the tires for this guy. And then you add to the fact that, I mean, this guy looks like he was carved out of marble. Yeah. And like some of those shots that he was hitting Turcali with, that Turcali was eating, Turcali's never going to be the same again because of that. Now, all of a sudden, Turcali's no longer durable. He's getting knocked out. And it's because of Vitor Petrino. Look at some of the shots that Petrino was landing in that fight. And that's why that dude's brains are scrambled now. I think he's going to do that to Anthony Smith. And as long as he stays out of that goddamn triangle, and if at any point he doesn't like how it's going on the feet against Smith, he could just take him down. This guy folds like a lawn chair and he does not get back up. I mean, Alexander Rakic beat this dude, controlled him for 13 and a half minutes, Clint. You know how many takedowns he had?
How many?
0. I mean, like Anthony Smith will pull guard or fall to his back just because he's sick of striking, and then just be like, just lay on top of me. I'll take less damage this way. So, yeah, man, I like Petrino.
That's true. Wheezy, one thing I will tell you, though, is that I'm absolutely, now that I've said it, I was this close to hitting my round 3, 4, 5 sprinkles on Alex Perez by KO last week. Perez came out a little faster than I expected him to. I really thought I was going to cash those tickets, Wheezy, and those numbers were stupid. This is maybe a little stupider, but for some god unknown reason, Anthony Smith's late submission props are juicier than his knockout props. If Anthony Smith were to beat Vitor Petrino, do you think by sub or by knockout would be more likely? Wheezy, I think submission would be far more likely for him to find his way to the back or have this guy slow down and tire out if he maybe had a bad cycle before this fight, get on top of him. He's not going to hurt him with his hands. That's never happening. Unless, he could like break his toe or something and get a TKO. But Anthony Smith is never knocking Vitor Petrino out. He could grab his neck, though. So a 50-1 Anthony Smith round 3, I might just have to sprinkle for the vet lesson, for the bald gang. See if Anthony Smith could turn up one more time, drag this guy into deep waters and drown him.
That's a cheeky look, dude, because like I said, man, if you've watched this guy's career and you've watched Anthony Smith fight as long as I have, you that third round triangle choke is in the possible outcomes. It's in just the potential win conditions. Yeah, man.
He didn't say round 3, but he said the triangle.
He's done it so many times, dude. So yeah, 14 wins by submission for Anthony Smith. So, I mean, he's got 20 knockouts as well. The guy finishes fights. He finds that moment. And usually after he Homer Simpsons you by taking 150 significant strikes, and then the second you get tired in his guard at pounding his face through the canvas, you're in a triangle and you're tapping.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh man, Wheezy, this feels good. I'm watching live right now, keeping my eye on the score over here. My Panthers are going to cash this series win bet over the Lightning here for me in about 5 minutes if they can hang on. They got a 2-goal lead now, so I'm feeling pretty good about that. All right, guys. we got the co-main event and the main event to break it down. Here we go. Next up, Jonathan Martinez takes on Jose Aldo, the king of Rio himself. And I got to tell you guys, recently, some wonderful things have happened, Weezy. We've seen the healing of old wounds. We've seen former enemies lay down their swords. There's peace in the world. And I have patched up my relationship with Just Win Baby. And I am not sure if it's the best or the worst decision I've ever made in my life. He's trying to like bait me into bets now. And he's like posting the mush of the week. And it's always one of my picks. He's giving me all kinds of shit now. It's all in good fun. I love it. It's hilarious. But no, seriously. So he posted that he's trying to get me to bet on Jose Aldo this week, and then post that it's like a 50-unit lock. It's he's like shitting, right? He's just giving everybody a hard time messing with him. But then today, right as we're going live on the podcast, he posts that Jonathan Martinez is the mush of the week. So I'm like, your ass is trying to bait me to bet Jose Aldo, which, you want me to lose my money. But then, right, you switch sides, and now the mush of the week is the other. What the fuck? Just Win Baby. Who am I supposed to bet in this fight? What do you want me to do? No, I love the online games. It's fantastic. But in all seriousness, the King of Rio belongs in the cage, Weezy. I'm so happy Jose Aldo is back. It was a short retirement, as most. He says draw. Bet the draw, 50-1. I like it. No, so both these guys are they're at weird points of their career, right? I will be completely honest with you. I never saw Jonathan Martinez as like a title challenger, Weezy. I've severely underrated him. Now, I have been a fan of his. I liked him. I've bet on him. He's a guy that I was like, oh, sweet. Like, we can make some money with Jonathan Martinez. But this corner that he has turned recently, I didn't see this shit coming. You know what I mean? The win over Said Nurmagomedov, that was impressive as hell. Knocking out a guy as tough and as durable as Cub Swanson with leg kicks, that was something else. And then the same thing with Adrian freaking Yanez. Like, I didn't think he was going to be on the type of career trajectory that he's on in this spot. Jose Aldo, he hangs it up, and Father Time comes for us all. It was a disappointing situation. He gets mauled by Merab, and the gif where he's got the money and he's like dabbing the tears off his eyes. Like that was me when Jose Aldo lost to Merab, because we knew, Weezy, that was going to be a Merab fight all day, but it wasn't a bad performance. And you look at his run before that fight, his 3-fight win streak over Vera Munoz and Font. I mean, he looked fantastic. And the split decision against Marlon Moraes back in 2019, I know, but still kind of bullshit, I feel like. Bad decision on that one. And yes, he got mauled by Piotr Jan, but as far as I'm concerned, he should have gotten that Marlon Moraes fight, and he would be 4-2. The only two guys he's really losing to are the elite of the elite, guys with gold wrapped around their waist at this stage. So I'm kind of okay with Jose Aldo saying I got one more in me. On top of that, he went and boxed. He's been boxing. The UFC granted him the exemption. I saw some people online being like, it sucks that he's got to fight out his last fight on his contract, man. It sucks that he's got to get away from the UFC. And they gave him permission. They told Jose Aldo, go, bro, do what you want to do. You know what I mean? So he's been boxing this whole time with the UFC's permission. He doesn't need to fight out his contract. I mean, unless maybe he wants to go to the PFL or something like that. He doesn't need to fight out his contract. He said, I took a break from MMA. I needed that. I did some boxing. That was fun. My body feels good. I've still got it. I'm coming back. This is the kind of unretirement that, frankly, I'm okay with. More often than not, I want to fade everybody in this position. But it's Jose fucking Aldo. And it doesn't look like he's had a fall off. Merab is the future champion of this weight class and the worst case matchup for a guy like Jose Aldo. He lost that fight. So be it. You know what I mean? This guy absolutely can still have a number smaller than 10 next to his name in this weight class. So I actually, believe it or not, am tempted to fall for Just Win Baby's trap. I like Jose Aldo as a slight underdog in this spot. And now that the line has moved pretty significantly, man, some serious money has come in here on Jonathan Martinez. He's now a -165, -170 favorite. Jose Aldo around +140, +150 in a leg kicking fight. Like we're going to go in there and throw down and beat the hell out of each other's legs. That's Jose Aldo's game, man. He wrote the book on that game. Now, I know he's older and youth is absolutely a weapon, but we have seen Jonathan Martinez get hurt a couple times, man. We've seen him wobbled in fights a couple of times, and he's not fighting the level of competition that Jose Aldo was before he stepped away for a little bit. This might be a spot where I pay for my non-believer attitude with Jonathan Martinez. Maybe he takes the money right out of my pocket. It's dog or pass, man. I might just pass on this one and cheer for Jose Aldo and just want this guy to get one back in the win column. And even if he does hang it up again after this, right off in the sunset, that's a very short list of people that have been able to pull off that feat, Wheezy. I hope Jose Aldo wins this fight. There's a little bit of love on this one, and I always have to be careful whenever I pull the trigger on a bet when the heart is involved, and I definitely am on the Jose Aldo side as far as my heart is involved, so got to be careful. But especially the wider this line gets, the more I like the Aldo side, man. What about you?
Yeah, I don't really know what to do with this fight. It's a tricky one because Jose Aldo, in my opinion, is not like taking this fight because he's like, I got one more in me. I'm going to get a win. This card was dog shit. This is UFC 301 in Rio de Janeiro, and the UFC up until like about 3 weeks ago was sitting there, and I promise you, the matchmakers were like, we can't release this as a pay-per-view. And any place but Brazil, you couldn't put a 37-year-old Jose Aldo who's just recently retired in the co-main event and expect anybody to give a shit. If you pulled that shit in Paris, people wouldn't care at all. If you pulled it in England, they wouldn't care at all. Hell, even at the Apex, I think a lot of people would be like, wait, I thought this guy was done. So that is something that I am not sure. I'm pretty sure that Aldo's showing up for a check, right? Second of all, I think Jose Aldo is one of the most well-rounded, skilled fighters that the UFC has ever had. His wrestling is excellent. His takedown defense is elite.
Morale couldn't get him down.
Yeah,
it was all cage control.
His low leg kicks are nasty. When he gets you to the ground, he can take your back and he submit you. I mean, like, he's got legitimate BJJ. But if you've been watching Jose Aldo fights for a few years now, you know this guy's just a boxer now. He's only a boxer. He is not shooting any takedown attempts. He's not trying to take your back and choke you out. He's not even looking to get into grappling exchanges if a scramble happens. He's a boxer. And he's facing a guy that's 7.5 years younger than him, who throws a lot more kicks than he does, stays a little bit busier at distance than him, but, obviously there's a big strength of schedule advantage. There's a big strength of schedule advantage here on Jose Aldo's side. And this is going to be both guys getting the fight that they want. Because Jonathan Martinez isn't taking anybody down. So now Aldo doesn't have to worry about having a Marab type fight like he had last time. He's going to have the type of fight like he had against Pedro Munoz and Rob Font and Marlon Vera, who will never shoot takedowns. Guess what Aldo did in those 3 fights? Unanimous decision win over Font, unanimous decision win over Pedro Munoz, unanimous decision win over Marlon Vera. I mean, are all those guys going to be favorites against Jonathan Martinez, maybe? Could be. I mean, I think Vera would be.
Vera probably would be, maybe more by popularity sake.
Maybe not Munoz at this age. Maybe I'd be taking Martinez over Munoz.
I would probably take Martinez over Munoz at this stage. Yeah. But it would be a competitive fight. Pedro Munoz doesn't fuck off. It would be a very close fight.
And you're not finishing him. And if you make any mistakes, like you shoot a sloppy takedown, you get in that guillotine, you don't check the leg kicks, you could wind up being on one leg early. He's a tricky fighter to deal with.
I'll be honest with you, man. I think one thing that maybe isn't being talked about enough is not necessarily going leg kick for leg kick with Jose Aldo, but Aldo's ability to check.
Mm-hmm.
There's just nobody who checks leg kicks like Jose Aldo does. And you could say the same for Jonathan Martinez, sure. But I don't think Jonathan Martinez has ever fought somebody that's going to check his leg kicks. Like, he's just beaten the shit out of everybody's legs that he's wanted to from day one. Aldo's going to check the first leg kick thrown at him.
Yeah.
And how's that going to change the fight? You know what I mean? I think
And
that's
it's
a very
southpaw
big
versus
factor.
orthodox, Clint. So you're just, a lot of guys are not as willing to go to the inside leg as they are the outside leg. So those leg kicks are often a lot times more of a factor when both fighters are in the same stance. Martinez is a southpaw and Aldo's is an orthodox fighter. And yeah, I don't think leg kicks are going to be a big part of this fight. You don't try to chop out Jose Aldo's legs. He's going to check all of them. And then if you kick him in the calf a couple of times, that's going to make him mad and start throwing calf kicks back. You don't want that dude kicking your calves. So I think it's going to be, a boxing match. And I favor the youth, the speed, the diversity of attack of Jonathan Martinez. And I'm wondering if Jose Aldo is just showing up for a check or if he's actually trying to win this fight. But when I have a big narrative issue that's casting doubt on the fight, you know what I do, Clint? I stay away. I'm fine with just staying away of this one, because if Aldo comes out looking like classic Jose Aldo, this is Martinez not going to look minus 170. It's going to look a hell of a lot closer than that.
Yeah, that's fair. And like I said, man, dog or pass. We'll see how wide this line gets. We'll see how high this number gets. If my money's going anywhere, it's on the King of Rio on a pay-per-view card in Rio. So
in Rio, that's right. He's the king. He's the king of that city.
They call him the King of Rio. He's literally the King of Rio. Like, I may just have to bet Jose Aldo for one more time's sake, man. So here we go. Wheezy, it's main event time, okay? It is Alessandro Pantoja, and he's taking on Steve Erceg, the Astro Boy. And I could not believe that this fight got made, and I love it. I love it so much. You have got a literal Rocky story going on here, Wheezy. Alessandro Pantoja said, look, I'm defending my belt in Rio, and there is no challenger. Unfortunately, this entire weight class right now, Wheezy, is in shambles. Everybody's hurt. The guy who is supposed to be on the title hunt takes an L. Manel Kopp is having busted ribs or some shit. Like, it's all just falling apart, right? We were supposed to have some very interesting competitors, and none of them deserved a shot. So he's going, I'm going to reach all the way down into the rankings and find a guy who's on a win streak because nobody else deserves it. And he pulls out Astro Boy. I've been telling you guys about Astro Boy for about a year and a half now. This guy was circled by the UFC as a talent. He was supposed to be on Dana White's Contender Series. His fight got canceled during COVID, so they said, fuck it. And they just brought him into the UFC proper without having a warm-up. And ever since then, he's gone on a tear, Wheezy. I know it's only 3 fights, but an impressive UFC debut against David Dvorak, who's damn near contender status. An impressive win over Alessandro Costa, a guy who comes from a good camp, who had a lot of hype on him, who a lot of people are picking to win on this particular card. And then he destroys Matt Schnell. Now, I know Matt Schnell's chinny. I bet every single opponent by KO every single time Matt Schnell steps into the cage because he has no chin. But Erceg is huge. He's tall. He is long. He's got good, solid wrestling. He's got good submission defense. He's got great boxing. He has fast hands. He has decent power. The club and sub is something that's always available and live for this guy. I love Steve Erceg, Wheezy, and I've made a bundle betting on him every single time he steps in the UFC's octagon. I'm not stopping now. Maybe the worst, the least profitable betting angle in all history is trying to fade Alessandro Pantoja. And that's exactly what I've been doing for the last little run here, Wheezy. I bet Brandon Moreno because that's my guy. And frankly, I think there's an argument he won that fight. It went to a split. That's a good bet. I bet Brandon Royval. I thought Royval was going to turn up in those late rounds, and he sure as hell made an effort to hurt Pantoja late. I think Erceg can do what Royval couldn't quite get done. Pantoja finds his way to the back. The grappling is always that trump card. He can pull that out at any point in time. But Erceg is so big and so long. I think he might struggle with that range. And I think Erceg is physically stronger than a guy like Royval is. He's very floppy. He's very scrambly. Whereas I think Erceg will straight up defend the takedowns and try to keep the fight where he needs it to be and then hurt Alessandro Pantoja with his hands the deeper this fight goes. I need him to not get tired early, Wheezy. I need him to not get worn out early. I need him to not give up the back because that is the path to victory for Pantoja. If he takes your back, you're fucked. So in a very real world, Pantoja takes this guy down, gets on top of him, never lets him stand up ever again. But if he doesn't do that, I think Erceg can hurt him on the feet, Wheezy. And I think Erceg's got the cardio to go 25 minutes. And like Erceg himself said, if you guys watched any of the promotional material leading up to this thing, he goes, I don't know why he's calling this a Rocky situation, guys. Rocky won the fight. And I am right there with him. You want to give Rocky a chance? Let's fucking go. I got Steve Erceg. I got him at plus 200, Wheezy. I thought about waiting because I think a lot of people are on the Pantoja train officially. And I thought maybe the line would get wider. It's already dropped. You've got minus 185 on Pantoja. You got plus 155 on Steve Erceg at this point. So I have a nice little closing line value trophy in my pocket. But I think the Brazilian legends are going 1-1. I think it's and new in Rio. I think you're going to have the first ever Steve champion in UFC history and new, baby. Erceg, let's go.
I like everything that I see from Erceg, and he's still only 28 years old. First of all, massive for the weight class, 5'9", 69.5-inch reach. Can't teach that shit. And he's got it in spades. Pretty good experience, 13 fights, 3 at the UFC level. He's finished 8 of his 12 wins inside the distance, and he's 4-1 in decisions. So this is a guy who can win minutes as well as winning moments. One of the great things that I really like about Erceg is the kid's got a chin. He's not going to go down if you hit him once. The guy is very durable. He has eaten clean shots from solid strikers and walked through them. That is something you have to have if you're going to be great in this sport. And Erceg's striking, the boxing, all looks very clean and technical. It looks like he's using that length and that height very well, flashing some power. And man, this guy's got quick back takes too. When he gets down to the ground, he's very good getting back up when he gets taken down, and he's very good at advancing position when he's the one getting the takedowns. The question is it too much too soon here? 3 UFC fights,
Yes,
13,
absolutely.
Yeah, and not only that, not only are you fighting Alexander Pantoja, but you're doing it in Rio de Janeiro, long flight from Australia to Brazil. They're not going to be particularly welcoming to this young man. And, Pantoja's been here before. He's done this before. 5-round fights against guys like Brandon Moreno and Brandon Royval, that don't stop, that don't get tired, that are very, very difficult to finish. And he's been there, and he finds the ways to win the minutes. He can get to your back. He can work clock, but it's not just that. The striking numbers are excellent. He lands 6.1 at distance, absorbs 5.8. He's got 45.5% accuracy, which is very good. He's landed 4 knockdowns and only absorbed 1. Nobody's finishing Alexander Pantoja. You're going to have to win it on points. And it's hard to win on points when you're the challenger. You can win 3 rounds to 2, and it still might be a split decision in favor of Pantoja in front of the home crowd. You got to beat the champ to be the champ. And, I don't think that, this is a very interesting matchup. We're going to find out how good Steve Erceg is, because everything that he's shown us thus far on tape is like, hey, you know what? I'm fine with this. I'm fine with them throwing him to Pantoja in Brazil. This kid looks like he doesn't have any holes in his game, and when you've got a chin and you've got a conditioning to go along with good technical striking, flashing some power, solid wrestling, good grappling, good conditioning, it's all there. So it's going to be really interesting to see if this 28-year-old kid can go into hostile territory and shock the world. But I think this line should be wider in favor of Pantoja, man. The experience.
There it is. We disagreed, Wheezy.
Yeah, man. I'm going with Alexander Pantoja and Pantoja by decision, Clint, plus 300.
Yeah.
I mean, Erceg's never been finished. He's fought some pretty good guys. He's very durable, and he's got a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, if I'm not mistaken, but his grappling game looks really good. I think if Pantoja gets his back, he can fight the hands and survive. Pantoja minus 200, okay. Pantoja by decision at plus 300, I like that a lot more.
Okay. All right. Well, there you have it, guys. We've got a disagreement in the main event. The Panthers just fucked my under by hitting the empty net 3 freaking times, and we got 7 goals in that hockey game. So that hurts. But I'm looking forward to this fight card, Wheezy. It's going to be a fun one for sure. Maybe not worth the dollar price tag on it, unfortunately. But I think there's enough fun fights. I think there's going to be some entertainment. They've set it up for finishes like this. This should be a blast in Rio, man. I want to say thank you so much for coming on the show and breaking all this down with me. Thanks for sharing all the stats and the info with the people. I know they appreciate it, Wheezy. If you could, let them know where they can support you and what else they've got going on.
So you can find me on my YouTube channel, Uncle Wheezy. I'll be doing a full card breakdown tomorrow night, 10 o'clock Central Time. Also, what I'd really like you all to do, if you have any love for your Uncle Wheezy, check out Probability. Wednesday night on our guy Brady, DFS by the Numbers channel. We're going to go live around 10:15 Eastern Time. And I'm going to take you through these new products that I've developed that computate fighters' win conditions based on prior performance, wind up adjusting these win conditions based on their win probability that's on the money line. We look at all these analytical comparisons to find plus EV bets on over-under bets, KO bets, sub bets, decision bets, inside the distance bets, basically anything that can be capped. Because I have all of the data from 2013 to present, I have every single UFC fight and the stats from that fight in a database. I put it all together. It all came together like butt cheeks, Clint. And we've got it all in one spreadsheet every week where you could look at plus EV bets for betting templates for KO, sub, decision, unanimous decision, split decision, inside the distance, all the over-under bets, all the DFS statistics, whether you play DraftKings, FanDuel, Prize Picks, Underdog. It's basically a comprehensive product for anybody that gambles on the UFC. Come check out Probability. We're very excited to debut this new product and this new content going forward on Patreon and Dub Club. I would really appreciate it if everybody checked that out this Wednesday. And then after you do that, the only thing left to do, stack cashed tickets like flapjacks for UFC 301. Let's get it, Clint. Let's make some money this week.
Hell yeah, Wheezy. All right, everybody, make sure you support our guy, Uncle Wheezy. Thursday, Total Takedown. Friday, Undefeated Post Weigh-In Show. And of course, it is a pay-per-view week, which means we will have the Sharp Action Report. Our guy, Andrew, will come from Superbook Sports and give us all the insider information that you're waiting for. Public, big guy, where's the money at? He's going to let us know on Friday right here, Home of Fight. So make sure you guys check it out and hang around. Do me a favor before you leave and hit that like button. And guys, we're all excited for this big pay-per-view card. We love our degeneracy. We like to gamble. And I always do my best to send you out with a positive message and a warm thought. But something terrible happened today. Unfortunately, former UFC champion and absolute legend Francis Ngannou lost his son. And as a parent, I cannot imagine the pain. Money doesn't fix everything, guys. And yeah, he got the bag going over to PFL and he's boxing with some of the greatest fighters in the world. And he can sleep on a bed of money that will not fill the hole of what that man is going through right now. So if there's any opportunity, even if it's just online, to send the guy love, some thoughts and prayers, he's been a guy I've been a huge fan of, and it hurts me to see him go through that kind of thing. And like I mentioned, I put myself kind of in his shoes and I couldn't imagine what that felt like. Just touch base, life is short. I lost a friend last year, Wheezy, motorcycle accident, very sudden, unexpected. You guys just never know. Life is precious. Life is short. And it's too short to have angry feelings towards each other. So if there's a fence that you can mend, maybe give that a shot. Even just being nice to somebody, a smile, a handshake, a fist bump. Go out there and be good people, guys. You never know when we're going to run out of time. So with that in mind, let's have a kick-ass week. Let's lift each other up. Let's make sure we find some of these soft spots, Wheezy, and let's make some money this weekend, guys. Love you all. Kick some ass. Go Panthers. Let's roll.